Buenas noches. Esta reunión está convocada a las 5:01 p.m. Good evening. This meeting is now reconvened at 5:01 p.m. Board members present in the board auditorium are Trustee Allen, Trustee Bluford Daniels, Trustee Guidry, Trustee Hernandez, Trustee Wade, Trustee Baker, Trustee Santos, and Trustee Dygard. I would like to ask everyone to please silence all cell phones. También me gustaría recordarle a nuestros padres y miembros de la comunidad de habla hispana que tenemos intérpretes disponibles y se encuentran en la parte de atrás del auditorio y podrán asistirle. Trustee Cruz has also joined us in the board auditorium. We will now be joined by a member of the Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps to lead our pledges. This student is from Sterling Aviation High School in District 4. I would like to ask District 4 Trustee Patricia Allen to introduce the pledge leader. Trustee Allen?
Thank you, President Hernandez. Cadet Ensign Joseph Coker has distinguished himself in academics, leadership, and community activities throughout his 2 years in high school. Cadet Coker serves as the marksmanship captain for Ross Shaw Sterling Aviation High School. Under his guidance, the team recently placed third in the precision category at an annual skills competition in San Antonio. During this time in JROTC, he volunteered countless hours serving his school and community. Most recently, for veterans of foreign wars post 8960 during their Hope for Heroes banquet, Cadet Coker is also an active member of the Color Guard. He has earned several awards and honors, including the American Legion Military Excellence Medal, the Association of the United States Army Ribbon, and NJROTC Exemplary Conduct Ribbon. He plans to attend Texas A&M on an ROTC scholarship and be commissioned in the U.S. Navy. Cadet Coker.
Please rise for a moment of silent meditation and reciting the Pledge of Allegiance and Pledge of Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Cadet Coker. Now we will move on to our recognitions. May is Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. I'd like to ask Trustee Wade to read our proclamation in honor of this event. Trustee Wade.
Whereas Asian American and Pacific Islander students in the Houston Independent School District enrich our schools and provide a unique perspective that broadens our experience and understanding. And whereas men and women of Asian American and Pacific Islander ancestry make significant contributions to our culture in many areas, including science, commerce, education, and the arts, sharing with us not only their individual talents, but also setting high standards of achievement. And whereas Asian American and Pacific Islander parents, business representatives, and community members bring to schools in our district a wealth of support and a strong commitment to making a positive impact on the educational experience of all students. And whereas Asian American and Pacific Islander administrators, teachers, and staff members are making a lifelong difference in the lives of our children, providing the guidance and education our students need to successfully pursue their dreams. Now, therefore, we, the Houston Independent School District Board of Education, and superintendents of schools proclaim May 2023 Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month in HISD, and to encourage everyone to celebrate the traditions of the Asian and Pacific Islander cultures. In witness thereof, on the 11th day of May 2023.
Thank you, Trustee Wade. We'll now be moving on to hearing of the community. Please note that we are conducting the hearing of the community in two parts to prioritize our students who wish to address the board. All speakers this evening are limited to 1 minute each per board policy, as we have more than 30 people signed up to address the board. Tonight, Jaden Boson, please come to the podium, followed by Michael Johnson.
Just start? I am a student at Westbury High School. Removing Mr. Washington from being my band director will be removing a teacher that actually cares about us students. He's the type of teacher that takes time out of his schedule to give us individual instruction. If he isn't my director, I will feel devastated and most likely quit band. Please reinstate him for the next school year. Listen.
Michael Johnson.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that Mr. Washington is a second father figure to some of us, and he's a role model as well for some of us, especially to me. He encouraged me to stay motivated with band even throughout troubles and hardships. And to have him removed like this makes all of us alike confused and distraught. So to have him fired and removed from his position like this just makes us all confused, and we would like him to stay in his position. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. It is now time to hear from speakers to specific agenda items. Please speak to the agenda item that you have signed up for. We also ask that speakers stay on topic and refrain from naming individuals, especially students, as their identity is protected under law, but you may name your own child. Speakers should practice normal rules of decorum. Obscene language and profanity will not be tolerated, as this is a public meeting and our students are watching. Additionally, disruptions of the meeting will not be tolerated. We ask that the audience refrain from interrupting speakers while they present to the board during this portion of the meeting, and to promptly end their remarks when the timer rings, indicating the expiration of their time. Speakers will generally be given 2 reminders of our public comment rules. If the speaker continues to violate the rules after these reminders, the speaker will be asked to leave the meeting. Will Ana Garcia please come to the podium? This speaker will be followed by Larry McKenzie. Ana Garcia?
Student.
Okay. Larry McKenzie?
So do I get the extra minute for hearing of citizens and also?
Still have 1 minute.
So it's just 1 minute for hearing of citizens and agenda item.
Correct.
Y'all changed the rules.
I make a motion that Mr. McKenzie is allowed the 2 minutes.
Second.
Thank you. Consider and approve proposed appointments, reassignments, and contract lengths and resignation retirements of personnel, including teachers, assistant principals, and principals. Now, what I'm here for is to keep Mr. Reginald Washington. But if we need to replace the principal at Westbury, then that's what we need to do. So I looked at that and I said it. We got over 2,500 signatures on the petition, and We have parents and students that are here that drove all the way from Westbury High School, got out at 4:10, and the principal is not on our side, so that means we have to come as fast as we can. Now, it made it very difficult that you changed the sign-up way to that you can speak. Because initially, when I first got on there, I could not even sign up for the community, hearing of the community. And then they called me back in the morning, and I asked that they add 6 hours to the people that did not know. So I'm saying this because, especially with the principal that's at Westbury pulled my son that has a 3.82 GPA that's about to graduate and questioned him without calling me, and then asked that he not tell his parents. So I ended up having to go there and threatening her. The way I threatened her is I say, if you don't talk to me today, then I'm going to 4400 West 18th and I'll speak to all of your bosses. So she waited, I had to wait 2.5 hours to speak to her, to talk to her about my son. And then she threatened that she would make it a felony. It was horse-playing. She wanted to make it hazing and gang initiation. For all of you that have sons, a felony on a brown or black man is a death sentence. You can question me. I'm a parent at Westbury. And I was surprised that she go as far as to go with me, knowing that I have frequent flyer miles at the board meetings. But if you wonder, now they may not want it, but I want her fired because she attacked my son.
Is Ana Garcia in the boardroom now? No? Okay. Evelina McKenzie?
She's on her way. She's about 10 minutes.
Oh. Malcolm McKenzie, also a student?
Student.
Braylon Tillman?
Student.
Mia Santana? We'll come back to the students. Our next item held for registered speakers is closed session legal. Okay. Do we have Ana Garcia walking in right now? Okay.
And Malcolm.
You can go ahead and come on up, Ana Garcia, followed by Evelina McKenzie.
She's not here yet.
Okay. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Anna Garcia. I'm in 10th grade and a current band member at Westbury High School. When I found out Mr. Washington was getting demoted from head band director, I felt betrayed by the principal. I felt betrayed because our principal has failed us students by removing the person that truly cares about us. Thank you.
Malcolm McKenzie. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Malcolm McKenzie. I'm a senior at Westbury High School. I've learned recently that my band director, Reginald Washington, was being demoted and will no longer be the director this upcoming year. When I came to Westbury, it's for jazz band. But when I met Mr. Washington, I learned that there was a whole new world. He introduced me to marching band and hard work. If you wanted your spot, you would have to work for it. I have seen Mr. Washington work with kids that I thought had no chance. He opens new opportunities to each student he meets, and I was surprised to hear that he's been at Westbury for 17 years. I can tell from the alumni that return, his guidance is long-term and everlasting. I want Mr. Washington to stay as the band director next year so incoming students could experience the same love and compassion he's been sharing for the past 2 decades. Thank you.
Braylon Tillman, followed by Mia Santana.
Good evening. My name is Braylon Tillman. I'm a graduating senior from Westbury High School. I am here to address the removal from Mr. Washington as the band director from Westbury. I think this is very, very not what we should be doing right now, his peers and his coworkers. He has done a lot, and he has helped a lot of students, and to remove him from this program, even though he dedicated around 20 years to it, is very disrespectful and is not in the best interest of any of the students. And we should be trying to focus on what the students want and how much we want to dedicate our times and our lives to.
And Evelina McKenzie.
She's parking right now.
She's okay, we will come back to this item. And before we move on, I do want to acknowledge the presence of Honorable Arnetta Murray, who's with us today, and also Senate District 13 Committee Woman, Mrs. Melinda Morris. Thank you. Our next item held for registered speakers is closed session legal B, pending or contemplated litigation matters and status report. Will Diego Perlata please come to the podium? Diego Peralta. Okay. Our next item held for registered speakers is item 3, authority to negotiate and execute partnerships with child care centers to expand pre-kindergarten enrollment. Will Daniel Santos come to the podium?
Good evening. Ships will be located on the west side. Is this equitable? In 2019, Rice University published a brief concluding that English learners in HISD have less access to pre-K programs than other peers. Could this be a preview of the inequity that a TEA Board of Puppets will bring to our district? HISD needs to invest in more. Unlike the governor and the commissioner who pretend to care about our children, our elected...
And please come to the podium.
Well, tonight is bittersweet. Many occasions we have agreed, and on many we have agreed to disagree, but for the most part, I think we all have wanted what is best for HISD and HISD students. Tonight, you can make sure that our employees are prioritized. You have a chance tonight to make sure that the HISD budget continues to be competitive and that the budget you adopt reflects your sincere desire to make sure that our employees are respected. Tonight, your vote can exemplify your understanding that teachers' working conditions are students' learning conditions. It is not about your individual interests, it is about the district. Tonight is your last chance to do what's right, and you can show our teachers that you support them and that you really care. As we transition to the Board of Managers, let me be perfectly clear that we still believe this is a hostile takeover and the appointment of a Board of Managers is an attack on democracy and its taxation with our representation. We are not happy that you gave up, but we still have work to do. Thank you.
Our next item held for registered speakers is item 5, approval of recommended curriculum materials for human sexuality instruction and instruction on the prevention of child abuse, family violence, dating violence, and sex trafficking. Will Meg Seth please come to the podium? This speaker will be followed by Melinda Morris.
Hello. Last month I spoke to you about the curriculum. Tonight I'm going to address the vocabulary in the curriculum. Birthing person, female, girls, daughters, and granddaughters. Myrna Guidry, would you like to be known instead of as a fashionista, a woman and with a birthing person with many hats? Kathy Bluford Daniels, instead of being known as an ex-cheerleader, would you like to be replaced with a birthing person who jumped a lot? Superintendent House, your young birthing person is graduating high school. Kendall Baker, you're raising a young... It feels like an attempt to wipe out women in society by brainwashing children as early as kindergarten. Let me just say one more thing.
Melinda,
I want to thank you all for working so hard this year. We might not agree on everything, but I really appreciate the effort.
Thank you. Melinda Morris.
Good evening, and thank you so much for this opportunity to address the board this evening. I'm a retired OB-GYN of 35 years. I'm a grandmother. I have 15 grandchildren, 10 granddaughters, 5 grandsons, and 1 beautiful great-granddaughter. I've delivered over 6,000 babies, and I can assure you there are 2 sexes, male and female. And I would never demean a woman who has carried a baby inside her for 9 months, gone through the horrific ordeal of labor, which many of you may realize that it can be quite horrific, and then refer to her as a birthing person afterwards. Just like I would not refer to her partner as a sperm donor. So I think the attempts to redefine women, redefine men, redefine families is not the direction that we should go in education. Thank you so much.
Item held for registered speakers is item 6, approval of proposed revisions to board policy, AE local educational philosophy regarding goal progress measures 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3, first reading. Will Karina Quesada Leon please come to the podium? This speaker will be followed by Ruth Kravitz.
Vote no on this item. The last thing our kids need is more testing. Let the Commissioner's Rainbow Coalition of Excrement do it. You don't have to do his bidding anymore. Trustee Santos sure was giving Lois Bullock tours of the schools they wanted to charter off. Superintendent House, I'm sorry that TA will not keep you around, but I hope that before you go, please look into the sped ed department. I had second-hand embarrassment when the sped ed director couldn't answer basic questions at the last workshop. I'm a mother of a sped ed student, and I see all the laws that end up getting broken in this district. It starts from the top. People don't know sped ed law. They don't know IDEA. And we have to, it's a crime that I have to hire an advocate to get services for my son. It really is. Thank you.
Ruth Kravitz.
Good evening. I'm here during Teacher Appreciation Week with a wish that we stop the unholy fixation on standardized testing that Agenda Item 6 promotes. I'm also here about democracy, and just tangentially, because of the last 2 speakers, I support the curriculum change. I think we should not ban trans. I believe in democratically elected representatives like you, even though some of your ideologies and votes are, in my opinion, bad for children and schools. Democracy works because when you let us down, when we disagree with your voting decisions or your ideology, we can vote you out. On June 1st, the Board of Managers will seize power from the citizens and take control of our school district like they did in New Orleans and in other cities so unsuccessfully. The unelected to rubber stamp decisions, and when they don't, they will be replaced. Please join us as we try to reduce the negative impact of the hostile takeover. Sign the petition. You can find it at houstoncvpe.org. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your work.
Thank you. Our last item being held for registered speakers is item 17, authority to negotiate, execute, and amend a construction contract for the athletics field and track renovation.
Congratulate you on getting the needed improvements at Evans Worthing. It's not my school. Y'all know I went to Yates, but I applaud the effort for Worthing. I'm also here because I believe that I am grieving the death of democracy. I don't know why I'm grieving the death of democracy, but it's dying right before our eyes. And we will be able to say in history, this is where it started. We have to continue to fight this takeover. We will continue to fight this takeover. And I can guarantee you, we will continue to pledge for democracy. And we hope that you can stand with us.
We'll now be going back to our first item held for registered speakers is Ana Garcia here, or Evelina McKenzie.
Good evening.
I am here today to speak against the termination of Mr. Reginald Washington, band director at Westbury High School. I'm a proud parent of a senior at Westbury High School. Despite my son's excellent grades and music abilities, he was placed on a waiting list for his schools of choice in HISD Magnet Portal. He auditioned with Westbury and immediately felt the validation and value expressed by the directors. My son gained much exposure and support from Mr. Washington in all of his academic and music career choices. It would be a tragedy if the upcoming students at Westbury are deprived of the same opportunities and leadership. Please do what's in the best interest of the students. It seems as though the principal is working to write off and out the only extracurricular activity that attracts Black musicians to Westbury, the Fine Arts Program, which is currently led by the best of the best, Mr. Reginald Washington. Please help us by keeping Reginald Washington as the director of Westbury High School. Our children are
Gladly. Thank you. Good evening. And I just want to say this. First of all, for you here, you guys have done a great job. And, you know, nothing's perfect. I'm a teacher at Westbury Middle School, and I just want to say this. The takeover isn't fair. We're not happy about it, and we're going to fight to the bitter end. And again, I didn't think I was going to speak because when I wrote in, they told me I didn't do the form, but I, made sure I did the email. So if I want to say anything, we got to make sure that our special ed kids are okay. I'm a special ed teacher, and it's very important. And I think one time I spoke to you about parent regulation. Yeah, you can regulate parents. These kids are kind of out of control. We need some help with, I don't know if it's truancy, I don't know if we have to find the parents, but it's enough with kids getting, teachers getting attacked by students over and over again. And number 4 is, I got to say this and I'm done. I have 32 seconds. Please continue to fight, even though you're not here on the board. Please fight, and I want to make it very clear. We are not happy that TEA is taking over. It didn't have to be, and we didn't want it to be. And we're going to fight to the bitter end because our kids deserve it. I'm a Ross Shaw Sterling graduate, and I came out pretty good. I think so. Teacher, councilwoman, mother of 5, no kids went to jail, 4 sons and a daughter, college graduates. I think I've turned out okay. We're going to fight, and we're not going to fight. We're not going to stop fighting, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Just to double check, did Mia Santana, is she in the room? Mia Santana? Okay, perfect. This concludes our hearing of registered speakers for agenda items. We are ready to consider a discussion and report item. Superintendent House, we are ready for your update. Colleagues, please hold your questions until the presentation is complete.
Thank you, Madam
As
President.
a reminder, this is our data for our end of year, last year data, where we saw an increase for our actual goal data from 21% of students receiving special education services who are reading at or above grade level, as measured by the MEETS grade level standard on STAR 3 through 8 and English 1 and 2 reading assessments. We saw it move from 21% to 27% over the course of that 2-year span, so that increase of 4 percentage points. When we look at our progress measure data, starting with goal 4.1, this slide specifically looks at our elementary school students, so our second through fifth grade students on middle of year Renaissance assessments. And we can see here that we had a 3-point jump for those grade levels from beginning of year to middle of year this school year of students who are classified as proficient on that literacy screener. However, as you can see, looking at prior year data, the 21-22 data, middle of year, we did see we are down from 21% of students in middle of year last year to 18 this year. You can see on this slide also our RISE campus data versus our non-RISE campus data. And as a reminder, of course, on this slide is the list of our RISE campuses at the elementary level. And we can see here that we had a 2 percentage point growth from beginning of year to middle of year for our RISE campuses, as opposed to a 3 percentage point gain for our non-RISE campuses. For goal 4.2, that we're looking at our middle school grade level, so 6th through 8th grade. Again, on the reading literacy screener, using our Renaissance assessment, we grew 1 percentage point from beginning of year to middle of year, from 9% to 10% of our students. That is down for middle of year 2% from the 12 points from last year. As we can see from our RISE campuses, again, from 11 to 11, beginning of year to middle of year. For our high school, this is primarily our 9th and 10th graders. We are looking at a 1 percentage point gain from beginning to middle of year on the Renaissance screener. And you can again see here, we are down from 11 to 8 percentage points, middle of year to middle of year, last year to this year. For our RISE campuses, and at the high school level, this comes with a little bit of a caution because it is only 2 campuses, so these are very small numbers, that those blue bars of 1%. So not seeing a gain, that there actually could be a gain within those decimal points, but we saw, as it's displayed here, flat as well as a small 1 percentage point gain for non-RISE campuses at the high school level. Superintendent House?
Thank you, Dr. Madden. Now, in looking at the goal progress measure for Goal 4, of course, one of the things that immediately jumps out is the number of testers recorded between the beginning of the year and the middle of the year exams. Historically, there's been a trend across grade levels of the number of testers declining between the beginning of the year and the middle of the year. Yet this year, across almost all levels, we saw an increase in the number of testers between beginning of the year and the middle of the year exams. We think that is increase in number of testers speaks to the improvements made in how we've identified students and how we are not only monitoring students in terms of their IEPs, which we've talked so much about. This work is cross-functional in nature and speaks to the improved coordination between our SPED department, within our academics team, and our schools office, who's providing support directly to our school leaders. While we acknowledge that we did not put the district in a great position to allow us to remain on course to meet the overall goal as we did this past year. As we discussed during the special ed workshop a few weeks back, our strategic plan has focused on improving 3 key pillars of the work for our students with disabilities: proactively and timely communication to rebuild trust with families, instructional excellence to meet students' needs, and improving systems to increase the quality of our services and IEP compliance. Now, finally, we believe that the investment that we're making in our science of reading training and implementing high-quality instructional materials for reading helps to improve outcomes for learners. We'll continue to work to train and support our teachers on how to differentiate instruction to meet the needs of all learners, especially those with disabilities. Pass it back to you.
Thank you. We are now ready for comments or questions from trustees. We will do 2 rounds of 2 minutes per trustee. If an additional round is desired, that can be done with a motion, second, and board vote. If you go to my computer, you should be able to put yourself in the queue. Trustee Dygard.
Thank you. Superintendent House, on all 3 of these progress measures, we are not on track to meet the target. And I'm noticing that we have declined on all 3 of them from MOI last year compared to MOI this year. And there was less growth this year between BOI and MOI. So what have you identified as the cause of that trend consistently across all 3 of these? And how are you using this data? Like, what are your course adjustments to meet the target for this year?
Dr. Bird, would you like to share the latter portion of the question in reference to the course adjustments?
Yeah. This particular group of students, the numbers, the people are not always the same because you're identifying people on a rolling basis. So depending on where kids come in, and how much service they've actually had before they take the test, the results are going to vary in this particular group of students. But I would say that this is continued collaboration with the schools office to course correct is that there are regular meetings with the schools team and the special ed team who've been deployed out to to campuses to assist in making instructional improvements. And there's also a lot of training going on right now for MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support. That's ongoing with staff members to really, one, make sure we're identifying the right students for special ed services, and then two, training general ed teachers, because remember that about 85% of students with disabilities are in general ed classes, and those teachers also need training, so it's not just the special education teacher that is receiving those strategies. So that's another thing that we are doing, actively pursuing. And those are the things that are in progress.
So I think what I'm hearing you say in all of this, both your remarks and yours, is that because we have additional students who have been recently identified that may not have been getting services earlier in the year, that's pulled the score down. So that's true this year, but that wasn't true last year?
Yeah, we've identified more students. If you look year over year, we've identified more students. The percentage of last year was about 8% of students receiving services receiving percent. So,
and so if you pull out the new kids, what I think I'm hearing you say is if you hadn't had new kids, you would have met the target.
I don't know if we would have met the target because, again, with this particular group of students, as students are identified and ARTed into special ed services.
Something I've noticed now that we've done this for several years is we kind of learn like what works and doesn't work with our goals and our monitoring and how we're framing it, what we said as progress measures. And so that might be just a note for consideration for whatever's coming next.
And then I would just add that the interesting thing about these data is that while you see these trends in the screener data, actually the end of the summative data, this group of students has done better than other groups. They've had more consistent increases on summative assessments. So that's another just interesting thing about the data.
And then I thought we were going to be incorporating the AIR recommendations and progress on that into progress monitoring on Goal 4. So referencing those 5 main AIR audit recommendations, where are we at in implementation and timeline of completion?
Yep. You addressed this in writing to the entire board, but during our special education workshop on March 27th, we directly addressed the AR report in reference to the 5 primary recommendations from 2018 specifically, which helped to inform our strategic plan and the commitments towards supporting learners with exceptional needs or students with disabilities. The same is true of ed strategies as well, which is this administration's. It was one of the guiding tools that specifically we chose to partner with to support us in the development of the special education strategy when we developed the strategic plan. Now, the recommendations from the work are reflected in the 3 primary focus areas discussed on March 27th's board workshop, as I discussed. Proactively, we looked at timely communication to rebuild trust with families, instructional excellence to meet student needs, and 5 years ago. Now, in 2021, prior to my arrival in the district, TEA appointed a couple of conservators to oversee the special ed services across the district, with the authority to, of course, issue directives as necessary to help bring the district into compliance. Now, the progress measures and goals that the board approved and to which my administration has been publicly reporting on each month began prior to my tenure in 2019. So if there had been a desire to more specifically reflect the AR report or in the progress monitoring and constraints, it seems that it could have happened well before I arrived as superintendent and accepted the goals and progress measures and moved forward accordingly. It is a bit perplexing that this conversation is really taking place at the dais at this particular point, despite this being the 6th time that my administration has brought forth the Goal 4 progress measure for discussion. Now, however, regardless of all of that, as I stated before, those AR recommendations have been embedded into our strategic plan. And in my tenure as superintendent, my team and I have worked extremely hard to meet the goal progress measure and goal restraints that we've discussed in these progress monitoring discussions. Now, finally, I think that the data speaks for itself. We exceeded the overall goal by 4 percentage points this past year, and I think that it's a testament of the incredibly hard work that not only principals, but teachers and SPED team have really worked towards on a daily basis to improve the quality of teaching and learning that happens with our students with disabilities on a daily basis.
Thank you. So are there new things that achieve these recommendations? Okay.
Trustee Wade?
Yes. Yes.
Finish this.
Thank you, Superintendent House. I so appreciate the addressing the beginning of the year to middle year numbers in the test takers. I know I always bring that to light. So my question starts at slide 4, the first slide, and thrilled to see that improvement and that jump in the target. But what measures do you think led to this increase besides anything that you've mentioned today? Like, do you think there was something specific besides what you've already mentioned?
Dr. Byrd, I think you've hit on a majority of the points that we believe made a difference in terms of strategic improvement.
Yeah, in the last 18 or 19 months, there has been a concerted effort in collaboration with the conservators in the district to make sure that the systems are in place so that students are getting appropriate IEPs written, and that there have been some systemic problems, and once those are corrected, then you can get to the teaching and learning part. So we've seen, this is a trend that we've seen in the data throughout the last year, that this group of students is outperforming, and that's because the IEPs are better written, they're better implemented, et cetera.
So, but the reason I bring this up, so you understand where I'm going, is that now this goal that we've already surpassed, right? So we're looking forward, how will you consider addressing the goal now that you've?
Well, I think that although we are meeting, the target, I mean, there's still lots of room to improve for this group of students to make sure that they're achieving at high levels. So while, we have lots of room to grow. So we'll continue to instant referral to special education. So I think that that will help. That's a big help to the system. And as more people are trained in those strategies, then we'll see improved. We'll be identifying the right students. But then even before students get to that stage of identification, there's strategies in place that teachers can use in their classrooms to help.
Thank you for that. And then my next question has to do with in the non-rise numbers, and we're talking about this flat 11, let me get.
Yeah, it's 11.
Slide 7. So in the non-rise data, so when you go back to, in most of these cases, even though they weren't necessarily RISE campuses at the time, you have 20 and 2021 numbers at the beginning of the year, and most of the slides are much higher than you are currently. And we're still staying flat in the non-RISE. Is there a reason that you feel like we're not meeting those targets?
I think a lot of it does go back to what Dr. Byrd said about the identifying new students. So especially at middle school level, if we're identifying new students, these are students that were struggling before. The data was what it was before. They just were not being pulled into our special education data specifically. Right. So now that and you can see the numbers, in looking from middle of year last year to middle of year this year, almost a 900 student increase. Those are students that had not had the services before and that are behind. We're just pulling them out and highlighting them here on these slides.
Okay, and then can I go back to slide 6 too? So I'm trying to understand back to, and I know this is old data, but year 20 and 21, at the beginning of the year.
You see all those different colors?
Oh, I see, right.
They were tested at home, and so
the data,
the quality was off, absolutely.
Thank you.
Ms. Conroy, I have a request from trustee Cruz to put her in the queue. Is she on Zoom? We don't see her. Okay.
Don't see her
Okay.
here. Okay.
Trustee Cruz?
Okay. Trustee Cruz.
Thank you. So question.
Trustee Cruz, we cannot hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. So I do share the concern that my colleagues share about middle of year to middle of year, the downward tick. When we were definitely on the upward trend prior to that.
Excuse me, President,
And
but there were
so-
some people in the queue with questions before she even got on.
She let me know before anyone was in the queue. Go ahead, trustee Cruz.
Well, I had a motion.
So my
Point of
question is,
Point of order.
We're in the rounds right now, so let's just continue round one.
I can
Let
still-
everybody, all the trustees have their first round, and then you can make your motion.
No. Robert's rules say I can call for point of order, and I'm calling for point of order right now.
can I finish my question? I didn't even get one question.
Well, I second your motion.
Thank you, because I know I
What is
called
the
for it.
motion?
Is there any way to determine who came in first with the request for a motion or the request to speak?
I don't have a problem with continuation of the question from trustee Cruz. I made a motion in the queue to ask for a point of order, and that point of order is, since we've been talking about, and I want to do it for the people that are out here in this audience and that are listening, we've been talking about the various campuses, and particularly, we don't want to talk in acronyms. We want to talk plain and clean and clearly so everybody can understand what we're talking about. That was mine.
Mr. House, can you explain?
Dr. Maddie, you want to give some insight on the AIR report from 2018?
I was not here then.
Okay.
I do know it's a reputable organization, and they produced a report about the status of special education in HISD, but that's, just from reading it, that's what I know. I don't have any more insight.
And Mr. House, just for those in the audience, AIR, I believe, stands for American Institutes for Research.
That's
That's
correct.
the A, the I, and the R.
Thank you. I just don't like acronyms when we've got people listening and paying attention.
It's trustee, okay. Trustee Cruz?
Okay, thank you. Hopefully my time restarts. So my question is about, comparing the middle of the year to middle of the year and the downward trend. Are there groups of students, because I heard what you said was that basically, we have more students that are identified, and thank you for that, because I feel like we have been way below the state and national average in terms of the number of students that are receiving special services. But my question is, what groups of students concerns, because we're seeing the data as an aggregate by grade level and student group, we're not able to see the disaggregated. So are there any concerns that came about from looking at the middle of year data?
Dr. Maddie, any subgroups that jump out, I think is what she's asking.
No, our practices at our level, when we have conversations with campuses and we're looking at this data and we're guiding conversations, as you matriculate up through grade levels with students with disabilities, so third grade students are doing a little bit better than fifth grade students, who are doing a little bit better than our ninth grade students with disabilities. That is a common trend we continue to see, and it's not an unusual new trend.
And what I guess is done to address that challenge?
Dr. Burke?
I don't have an answer for that question, but I can get some people from special ed team to dig into that more and give you a written response.
I would appreciate that. And I think just some clarity on the issue that was raised earlier, because I'm the one that sent the email initially about this whole conversation. My memory was, our board has a self-constraint on conducting a special ed audit every 5 years. And so the AIR, and I'll use that acronym since it's been clarified. Thank you, Trustee Clifford Daniels. So my recollection was that SPED strategies was a much more recent report. So instead of spending more money on another study or audit, was to use those recommendations. And I haven't seen that report or the recommendations. Just finish my quick thought. My understanding was that instead of having that new study, we would receive not just those recommendations, but we could monitor the progress, not just a one-time SPED workshop, which, by the way, that workshop was added on our calendars at the last minute. Not just a SPED workshop, but an on progress monitoring, particularly the public can have confidence that it's but it helps the public understand what is being done.
Again, apparently most of the people even up here didn't know what AIR was, and I just have an issue with talking in acronyms. I've said that repeatedly, and I'll say it again with everything in me. And I know, is it a program we still use that TEA obviously was paying the grant, I believe it was. Do we still use that AIR as a measure for research?
They are a well-known research institution nationwide. We do not contract with them because we actually have our own internal researchers, but they do phenomenal work.
Okay, so let's save that time talking about AIR then. So with the RISE campuses, when was RISE campuses initially implemented?
The fall, the beginning of the school year, this school year.
This one school year, and we've used that as a measuring tool, and thank you for that data, because how are those campuses chosen, so everybody can know? RISE campuses.
They were based on their TEA accountability rating, recurring D and F campuses or F campuses in the last accountability year.
Recurring, multiple, more than one. So when we're talking about RISE campuses in the comparison to the regular campuses, let's be clear, those campuses that are RISE campuses have had multiple years of failure. So we can't convolute the two. They've had multiple years, that's where the concentration apparently needs to be. So thank you for that, and I'll yield the rest of my time.
Trustee Santos?
Thank you, President Hernandez and Superintendent House, Dr. Matney, for your presentation. How does this goal develop our students with disabilities' functional skills as well as their academic skills?
Dr. Burt?
Following idea.
Well, that's why we have IEP meetings, to make sure that students are making progress on all of their goals. And there are data points throughout the year that teachers monitor for progress, and they report that out. So parents get information on report cards. And then at the annual ARD, they review the goals to make sure that they're appropriate. So it's not just reading and math. It's
So when parents don't understand the language or don't understand the policy surrounding special education, or there aren't enough teachers or special ed case managers, how are you ensuring that those IEPs, number one, are being fulfilled with the lack of teachers that we have filling these positions, and that parents aren't being lied to?
Well, parents are part of the IEP team. So, they're part of the decision-making body. That's why it's purposely not just school staff. There are parents there too that they know their children better than anybody. And so, and from my personal experience, many times parents would say, my child needs to work on this social skill or functional skill as it might be. So, that input is all taken as goals are developed. I don't think that our staff is lying to parents. I don't believe that.
Dr. Bird, I hope that you stay here in HISC, and I hope that you go and sit in a couple of ARDs and bring somebody that's a translator so they can follow along. Okay, so Superintendent House, there are 28 students in an HISC teacher's classroom, many of whom are students with disabilities. They're learning and growing, but the pandemic is a real hurdle they're working hard to overcome. One, they were online for half of pre-algebra at the start of the pandemic. All of ninth grade, they were online for Algebra 1. The kids tell me that it was incredibly hard to learn math online. Many of our students did not have affluent parents or who had learning pods and hiring tutors throughout the pandemic to offer. How can the administration address our students' concerns with just learning algebra?
I think we all know that the pandemic was a very difficult, unexpected time period. Extended services and supports through tutoring and other pullouts to ensure that we gain as much ground over the course of time with our students as well. So much like the pandemic went on for an extended time, it's going to take time for students to gain the ground.
A junior that's in high school, learning Algebra 1 at 9th grade versus learning Algebra 1 as a junior is really different. Just want to remind the administration that the combined consequences of the pandemic and poverty are very, very real. We know we need smaller class sizes, and we need to end the narrowing of the curriculum with all this testing. Also, with so many young people in this room, the board should temper their fixation on data. It's demeaning. Children are more than a test score. STAR does not define them. Band directors define them. Coaches define them. And teachers that help them progress, not STAR, not some ridiculous test. Thank you.
Trustee Allen?
Thank you, Trustee Hernandez. I want to thank Dr. Matney for her presentation and allowing the board to ask questions. I did have a concern last Thursday when we had a comp ed presentation and we were not allowed to ask questions. So my, I'm gonna say my grievance with that was that maybe the new Board of Managers will have a chance to ask questions regarding a full comp ed presentation. You know how I am about follow the money. Sometimes when the money is not presented and it's just put into the records, I have an issue with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the queue for round one? Okay.
Recruiters have been helpful in helping us establish some systems to make sure that we are in compliance with timelines and things like that. And both of them have, a lot of experience in this work and have been helpful to, advise on the instructional program. So yeah, I do think that it's contributed.
Are those directives monitored or tracked?
Yes, every month the conservators submit a report to the TEA, and they monitor our progress on those goals.
And are those directives available to the public? And the progress, the data?
They are submitted to the TEA. I don't think that we don't post them, but that's the conservator submits to the TEA. So we see the report, but we don't post that, no.
Okay. Those are all my questions for round one. Trustee Baker?
Thank you, Superintendent House. Thank you, Dr. Madney. Just want to state for the record that my answers have been addressed by my colleagues' questions. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see anybody else in the queue for round one. Round two, we'll start with Trustee Dygard.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm hearing that the AIR audit, special education audit that was done by the American Institute of Researchers, older review, has a more recent review audit been done for special education and HISD?
SPED Strategies is the, I guess what we would call the most recent audit that I ordered with philanthropic dollars to support what we were doing. And as I indicated earlier, it did help to utilize us as we built the 5-year plan. So yes.
And I'm sorry, that wasn't in the special ed workshop, which is why I was referencing the AIR, because I thought that was the most recent one. So the SPED strategies.
Than the compliance kinds of things that was in the initial audit. So that's the work that has come out of some of the reorganization that happened in special education, pushing more support to schools instead of in this building. The MTS, that multi-tiered system of support training, that's come out of that. The some of the instructional practices for more inclusive classrooms. So some training that is beginning or is underway as a result of SPED strategies.
When was that?
That was completed, that work was right when I got here, so probably like December of 2021.
That's correct.
Yeah, they were
With the
finishing up
report,
when.
the research was completed?
Well, they were,
Or the
they're
implementation of the
consulting.
recommendations?
The implementation of the recommendations probably started in February, right around the time of the strategic plan role, because that's how that informed the strategic plan for that pillar of the plan. Their SPED strategies work informed that.
Okay, and so what I'm hearing then is it's these strategic plan, 3 primary focus areas. How are you, where are you in implementation of those? When will implementation be complete?
So for some things, one thing I didn't mention, the biggest part is probably communication. So there have been new communication systems put in place to make it easier for parents to navigate. That part is complete, and now we're just monitoring to see how it's going. And then the other recommendations around most of the systemic kinds of those are in place now. So now we're just going to be monitoring data to see if it's working.
So the recommendations are complete, now you're monitoring for effectiveness of the implementation.
That's right.
That is an
And
awesome
adjusting,
answer,
yeah.
thank you. And since this is our last progress monitoring, thank you, Dr. Matney, thank you, Dr. Bird. You have come up here every month under fire since you got here. And you somehow have managed, like, I have a few questions in regards to the conservators' directives. So where are you in those? I'm gonna take your question, Trustee Dygard. Where are you in the implementation of those directives? And then when do you see that implementation to be complete?
What I will say before Dr. Bird jumps in is Dr. Bird and his team meets with the conservators on a monthly basis. I met with them on a quarterly basis to kind of get an overall scope of what recommendations needed to be made. And we generally saw that as a team effort. We worked closely to not only look at those recommendations, but to ensure that we had steps in place to ensure that we could not only monitor, but see on the back end where we were making improvements with those recommendations. Dr. Bird, any other insights?
Yeah, I don't have it on the top of my head how many areas there are. I don't remember how, but I do meet with them weekly, and if that's a chance for them, to bring up any like red flags that they're experiencing. They also attend meetings with the special ed team. So they're monitoring, constantly the systems and things that are in place. So we address the concerns as they come up. So I can't tell you. I'll have to get it to you in writing. How many?
Is there a completion date for those on your end?
Well, yeah. I mean, we're trying to address things as quickly as we can to make sure that we're complying. Not only with the law, but also making sure students have the best experience. And so, I mean, it's an ongoing process. I would just say that some things are done, like, we have, so I'll give you an example. One of the things that we were struggling with at one point was the data for students as they're meeting their goals. So the question that Trustee Santos asked before. Now there are structures in place so that teachers report data on a regular basis, so that at the end of the marking period, there's a collection of data that we can objectively look at and say, yes, the student.
And like the latest completion timeline, like this year, next year?
Oh, yeah. I think it's kind of, they're here
really?
until, it's indefinite, that they're here until.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Matney. Thank you, Dr. Bird. We appreciate everything that y'all do for us. I know that this is a challenging board, challenging effort, but thank you so much. We will now move to accept the presentation.
President Hernandez, I was in the queue.
Oh, sorry. Well, tell me that there's nobody else in the queue, and then y'all get in.
You inspired a question.
Trustee Santos.
Thank you, President Hernandez. Superintendent House, Dr. Matney. I just want to acknowledge our students and parents that made it out tonight. Our students, thank you so much for advocating for yourselves and for what you need and what your community needs. I hope to see you here and hold whomever is sitting in these seats to account. And Dr. Matney and Chief, all y'all, thank y'all so much.
Okay, trustee Blueford Daniels.
I'm glad you got that in, trustee Santos, because they'll probably be gone when we get to the latter part of the meeting when we speak. And I just want to tell you all, I am so impressed with you all coming out and supporting what you believe in. And that's in your band teeth and learn for the rest of your life. So thank you all for being here. Y'all did an awesome job. Y'all did an awesome job speaking before the board. So don't let this be the last time. Thank you.
Yes. Trustee Guidry.
Okay, so I'm going to come up on the rear on that one because guess what? I am your board trustee. For that my colleagues would take note of what has happened here today, and out of respect for their band director who has impacted all of these lives. And so we're thankful for you all to come out and speak your mind. Again, I'm so impressed with Westbury. I'm always, again, impressed with Westbury. Thank you all for everything that you do. Parents, thank you all. I know it was hard getting them over here in the traffic this evening, but you all made the effort, and that says a lot. Please don't let it be your last time. We have a board of managers coming in, someone you all did not elect. Okay, so we definitely will need you all to come in and speak up and speak out. Thank you all.
And she was a cheerleader too. She was a
Trustee
cheerleader too.
Baker.
Yes, we inspire each other. I just had to jump in and get a little bit. I was a part of Westbury class of 1982. I was there for the 11th grade. My sister was in 1982. So go Westbury. I was there. Thanks for coming. Thank you.
And Madam President, I just want to point out to the board that, so that it's clear that we are being consistent with our agenda, trustee comments are posted on the agenda, which could be taken up at any time during the meeting. And so the trustees have just chosen to take up some of those comments now, and they'll take up some of those comments later. But we're still on the posted agenda.
Thank you. I don't see anybody else in the queue for this round, so we will now move to accept the presentation given to us. I have a motion by trustee Dygard. Do I have a second? Please vote. I have a second by trustee Baker. Please vote. Voting son, who has joined us in the auditorium. And then we will also go back to hearing of the community because I see that there's some students who wanted to register. We have a new system for registering to speak that are here with us right now. And they do we want to give them their 1 minute to speak on agenda item. Closed session personnel be considered and approved proposed appointments, reassignments, proposed terminations, suspensions, contract links, proposed renewals, and resignations, retirements of personnel, including teachers, assistant principals, chief officers, assistant superintendents, executive officers, and other administrators, and if necessary, approve waiver and release and compromise agreements. So do I have Jeremiah Williams? And board services, if we can put 1 minute on the speaker.
Good evening. I'm Jeremiah Williams, and I'm a member of the Westbury High School Marching Band where I play trumpet. On April 29th, I was on the high after competing against bands from Louisiana, Arkansas, and Mississippi, winning first place in the Huntington Jamboree. With my fellow peers and looking forward to wrapping up my sophomore year on a positive note, by the morning of May 3rd, my positive demeanor abruptly changed due to the learning that our current band director, Mr. Washington, was being removed from his position for the the 2023-2024 school year by our principal. I chose Westbury structured a marching band that is culturally diverse and could meet the needs and transform all learning, especially students like me that would starting from scratch during my freshman year due to COVID, stripping me from the sound teaching in HSD from my 7th and 8th grade year. Unknowingly, choosing the band program has not only bridged my musical educational gap, but through Mr. Washington, a high-quality scholarly expectation has also been established that has also taught me discipline, enhanced my organizational skills, assisted me academically, where I have remained at 3.6 grade point average and has sustained me mentally, emotionally during this difficult time in transition. Unlike the principal of our campus, the decision has taken a drastic toll on me, as no explanation has been given and it has not been addressed with all students of the band. This news hurts because I feel our principal failed to consider that Mr. Washington is more than a band director. He's a mentor, a role model that cares about my overall well-being as scholar and musician. Therefore, I'm asking that the decision of our principal made to drastically change my educational result be investigation, and Mr. Washington be reinstated as the band director for the 2023-2024 school year.
Litzy Turcios, followed by Ann Sanchez. You have 1 minute.
Hello everyone, I am Litzy Turcios, a graduate of Westbury High School. I graduated last year, and while at Westbury, I spent all 4 years in the marching band under the direction of Mr. Washington and Mr. Major. While a student at Westbury, Mr. Washington has set a standard of academics, graduating Westbury at the top of my class, became class president, and even joined clubs and organizations at Westbury. This is also the case for many other students under his direction. Many of his current and former students demonstrated leadership and academic excellence because of how Mr. Washington pushes us. The way he runs the band program is why the band is so successful and well-known, always representing Westbury correctly, especially with Mr. Major alongside of him. It would be against the interest of the students to take away such a positive influence or take away from a successful program that has done nothing.
Ann Sanchez, followed by Diego Perlata.
Annie Sanchez. I'm a freshman at Westbury High School. Mr. Washington is a role model for me, and removing him will be really disappointing because he is a great teacher, and I've learned a lot from him just this year, and I would like to keep learning from him. Thank you for your time.
Diego Perlata, followed by Mia Santana.
Good afternoon. My name is Diego Peralta. I'm a current member of the Westbury High School Marching Band. I wasn't ready for this. Mr. Washington has done nothing but to support me and all my decisions I made. Ever since I've been on the wrong path, he has always helped me strive to success and be the better version of myself. Removing him, all I know it'll be a grieved mistake.
Hello, my name is Mia Santana, and I'm a current senior at Westbury High School. When I tell you that he has done so many things for his kid, he has done it all. The amount of love, care, and patience he has had for all of us is immense, not only for us, his current students, but also for those who came before us. Can you imagine the kind of image a student must have for his teacher in order to come back years after they have graduated? The amount of love and respect they must have felt the years that they've been here to feel comfortable enough and to have a home, and not only in their high school, but within a person. I have a sister who will be joining the band, who has been eager to join the band, which would have been next year. And hearing the news of what is happening right now, she has been upset and she has been thinking of not even coming to Western. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for all the students that came out and had the courage to speak to the board today. We are now ready to consider the superintendent's agenda items. Board policies require that trustees abstain from all discussion and votes pertaining to contracts that might involve a conflict of interest. As defined in board policy BBFA local, a conflict of interest is any circumstance that could cast doubt on a trustee's ability to act with total objectivity with regard to. We will now consider items held for abstention and or discussion. For each item of discussion, we will do one round of 1 minute per trustee. If an additional round is desired, that can be done with a motion, second, and board vote. Our first item held from consent agenda is item 3, authority to negotiate and execute partnerships with child care centers to expand pre-kindergarten enrollment. This item was held for discussion by Trustee Allen. Trustee Allen? Trustee Allen.
Thank you, President Hernandez. I received the Q&A, I think yesterday or this morning, and was disappointed to read that the district is not moving forward with business as usual. When I talked last week about whether or not the MLK would be able to add kindergarten to their school, along their pre-K classes, along with the, add kindergarten to the, along with their pre-K classes. And the Q&A answer that I got was that they were no longer moving forward with business as usual in the district, and they were going to wait on the new superintendent and the board of managers to determine that issue. So when I say I was disappointed that we are not going along with business as usual, I would hope that something could be done, because those parents have the right to know where their children will be attending school. They're going to have to spend, the new board of managers is not coming in until June. School will be out. Children will be pushed out of the system and into a new school. So my question was, will we be able to do something about that this year? The principal said that she did not know the process that was put in the Q&A. She didn't know anything about that. And if she did request that kindergarten be added, but she didn't know that the process that was put in the Q&A was the process she asked her SSO. So somebody in administration should have known to tell her that she needed to follow that particular process. So my question is, are we going to be able to do something so that those parents can know that their children would be able to stay?
Dr. Watts, if you don't mind sharing.
Thank you for the implications for those decisions long-term. During my time here, what I've worked to do is establish a calendar and a process by which, if a school did make a request.
Okay, respectfully, you fixing to tell me why it didn't happen. I want to know, can it happen? I mean, she requested it a long time ago. Her SSO is who she requested
Yes, ma'am.
it to. I don't know who that is.
I was not aware of the request, but the new process.
I know that now.
Yes, but
and because she read the
Yes.
answer that you gave me back.
Yes, ma'am.
And so when you said in that answer that
I wasn't aware.
Well, no, in that answer you said that you all were going to wait on the new superintendent. And board of
Answer, I
managers.
said I was unaware of the request.
I'm sure maybe it just didn't go past our SSO.
Right,
My
it didn't
question
get
is,
to me.
can we do anything about it?
That decision.
Is that a yes or no? Before you get to that long answer.
It's not as easy as a yes or no. Making that decision has other implications.
Okay, but you can stop right there. That means that somebody's going to try to do something.
Study what the implications are before we
thank
make
you.
a decision.
As long as I know you're trying.
Okay.
Thank you.
I am in the queue next. I have a question about this item. when, I know I read the Q&A as well, it says that the west side has the most demand. Is that based on the applications of the schools on the west side of town or of the students applying to schools on the west side of town?
I believe I have to verify. I think it's based on the applications that we are getting.
Not based on the address of where those students live?
Well, it's probably, I don't know. I have to check.
Okay.
Yeah.
Trustee Bluford Daniels.
Thank you. Interesting, because we've had a lot of conversation about pre-K. And I know that you all were making plans in the future to.
Last year at 18, we ended up expanding by 24, and we were looking to do the same annually for at least the next 3 years as a part of the strategic plan.
And I'm glad that pre-K is on the radar for so many now, because as we've said, since we came on in 2020, pre-K, Northeast is a pre-K desert. It has one early childhood center. And we know from data and history that the sooner the children are in a learning environment, pre-K and kinder, then there's more opportunity for them to start that educational learning process that will help them and with their testing, or to know where they are, Santos, not so much no more testing, but to have an indicator as to where the concentration needs to be for their learning opportunities. Because obviously that still is part of that area that has the biggest opportunity for student achievement, to improve student achievement. So I'm glad we're having this conversation. We just got to find some kind of way to increase that pre-K.
Trustee Dygard.
Thank you. Two quick things. The early childhood centers were created in areas that had a need for pre-K, but that did not have capacity in the K-5 schools in those communities. West Side is pretty darn big. Gulfton community is the highest density of poverty in our city. They have, their elementary schools are busting at the seams. And so I think there are a lot of presumptions that are getting baked into this conversation that are a disservice to the children in Gulfton. Thank you.
Trustee Santos.
Thank you, President Hernandez, Superintendent House. Can we know the implications? Well, let me ask this question. Are the implications that we increase enrollment and create a
And try to go to those particular areas of the city to expand. And that expansion, the idea of expanding last year, expanding this coming school year, and expanding the year after was a part of the overall strategic plan. So we looked at it and determined that there were particular areas across the city, whether it was the pre-K deserts or not. We had to look at the demand, and that's what we truly tried to focus on in this process.
Did y'all look at all at capacity, whether pre-K centers or elementary schools had the capacity to open up a pre-K center? I'm saying this because I have a
Yes.
3-year-old, and my son was a COVID baby. He was born during COVID and didn't get to go out much. And now I'm back in education, specifically focusing on early childhood education. Over 85% of my son's class has a speech pathologist. He's 3 years old. It's a 3-year-old group. They need the help. They need all the help that they can get. So I guess my question is, back to Dr. Allen's point, can we make something more happen in order to open up these, as my colleagues like to call them, pre-K seats for neighborhood schools, like if a principal asked for it?
Right now, we're sticking to the plan of expansion that we focused on from the beginning. So it's not as if expansion's not happening. It's just happening in the way that we plan for, So
just an anecdotal survey here. I tried to get into an early childhood center in District 1 in the north side, and I was unable to. That doesn't mean that there's not need everywhere else. I'm just saying that you're losing an entire demographic here by not surveying other communities. So thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Trustee Guidry?
Thank you. Is greater on the east side. So I'm not sure of why we're focusing and feel like we have determined that the west side is in most need.
Dr. Burt?
So we have expanded in the east since 2021. We've expanded, and there are generally room in schools. I mean, that's the first thing we look at. Do we have room in our own facility? Can we do the bathroom? Can we do the modifications that we need to? That's the first order of business. But the west side has those schools. Many of them do not have space to be able to expand within their own school, whereas other parts of the city, they have room in the school that we can convert classrooms. So many of the 24 classrooms there, if you look at the map, they're across the city. And this coming year, we have plans for another 22, I believe, and they are across the city as well. This particular item is a partnership because we do not have our own we can't fit anybody on our own facilities without doing major construction. That would probably require, kind of bond dollars to do. So that's why we're now looking where we don't have we're not able to do it in our own facilities to partner with people that have the facilities.
Thank you, Dr. Byrd. And then, so I guess I'm a little confused here. So yes, we've expanded 24 new classrooms, right? But is it truly an expansion if the current students may not be able to attend? Is what I'm understanding, or is that not the response we got from the Q&A?
The expectation is to continue the expansion. It's not just about last year's expansion of the 24 classrooms, but we're looking at an additional expansion across the district of another 22 classrooms strategically. So the idea from the beginning was to focus on this at least 3 years in a row, and we're on course to continue to do
applications across the city and see where that is. Sometimes principals call us and say, hey, I have a lot of 3-year-olds. Can we expand here? And I have a room to do so. So we're going to meet that need that the principal identifies if we can. But really the biggest barrier to it is really the licensing requirements and the bathroom height, all those things that are just, it's not easy. It's not putting up a wall. It's a pretty major construction project in some cases.
Okay, so then, but the goal right now, because again, I'm kind of following Trustee Allen. We're not halting, we're continuing to move forward, correct? Okay, thank you so much.
Trustee Allen?
Thank you, President. This question, do you have a list of the add-on pre-Ks that you're adding on for next year? If so, what are they?
We do have a list. I don't have it with me, but I can get it to you.
Okay, I just wanted to know, this is our last board meeting, so.
We'll get it to you.
I'm not even being politically correct this day. So, I just wanted to see where were they? Will the MLK Pre-K Center be short children? If all of the children are coming from the west side, like our speaker said, Mr. Santos, I mean, where are they? I mean, will MLK really lose a bunch of kids? And those, I just don't want our schools to have to close down because of a lack of students, and we sit there and let them all go out. Thank you. I'm sorry, sir.
We'll definitely get your list. ASAP.
Working on it right now.
I don't have but one more week left. Okay, I have to be able to act. I got 2 weeks left. I need. Oh, that's right. We have a meeting next week. Okay, thank you.
I just want to state that I agree with Dr. Allen. I understand that this is our last board meeting, but I think understanding whether the address of the student is what's determining the desert on the west side, or if it's just the desire to be at a school on the west.
We are trying to keep kids in the district that are bordering other school districts.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. I see Trustee Bluford Daniels in the queue.
Yeah, I just want to add one more thing, because as we're talking about pre-K, I think it's still, as I've said all along, it's an opportunity. It's a gateway to learning opportunities from pre-K to kinder, et cetera. And so the use of the word, when I hear the use of the word poverty, let me tell you, I grew up po, not poor, po.
3 more.
And didn't know I was po because everybody in the community was po. But we still had opportunities, and I hate the use of that word. I said it many times. We can say income challenged, but these children, it's not these children's fault that they have poverty issues. So let's say income challenged. I asked about the modifications last time because, again, it's so important. And you mentioned, Dr. Bird, about the major construction bond and the money in the dollars. I think I asked you about that Superintendent House last week, about how costly it will be to incorporate those pre-Ks into some of the campuses that we already have. But I think it's obviously, Trustee Hernandez, worth the money because, again, giving our students the opportunity to have a leg up into a learning environment. Thank you.
And Trustee Bluford-Daniels, some of the costs that would be incurred to add exterior doors, to lift sinks, to lift toilets, partnership. But what it would also do is allow for us to partner from a curriculum and instruction standpoint, a training standpoint with those teachers in those classrooms. So there would be the kind of consistency that we want to focus on to ensure that we have accountability and structure around what it is that we want to focus on.
Thank you.
Oh, Trustee Wade is not here. She's on her way. Trustee Cruz has her thumb up. Voting is closing. Motion passes 9 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions. The board will now take a 13-minute recess. We will come back at 7 for hearing of the community. Because Again, speakers are limited to 1 minute each. I'd like to remind speakers that when addressing the board, please stay on topic and refrain from naming individuals, especially students, as they are protected under the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, permissible in the course of stating your concern. The board encourages and welcomes comments and input from our community, but we cannot respond to or deliberate on any subject that is not included on a posted agenda. While the board listens to concerns of a, please come to the podium. We'd like to recognize Ms. Sung for her service to our community, including as a former Board of Education trustee. Welcome, Ms. Sung.
I'm here as an HIC parent to say thank you. Superintendent House, thank you for making your home here in Houston, serving our community with dignity. You'll be missed. Trustees, thank you for your dedication, for your passion, for running for office, and for serving our children in this unpaid volunteer job. And as a former Northside teacher, since it's Teacher Appreciation Week, I would be remiss if I didn't honor and thank my Northside High School teacher colleague, Elizabeth Santos. Thank you for loving and living democracy, for showing our students and teachers that they could put together a campaign and win and make a difference for students. Thank you.
Next, will Lachey Davis please come to the podium? This speaker will be followed by Ted Weisgo.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Lachey Davis. I'm an active HISD stakeholder with the Office of Special Education. However, I'm here as the parent and mother of Jeremiah Williams, who is a trumpet player in the esteemed Westbury High School marching band under the direction of Virginal Washington. At the focal point of Westbury's district website, it employs that like HISD's Family and Community Engagement Department, the principal values parents as partners in preparing our students to succeed in college, career, and beyond. I would have to beg to differ and say not so. The principal has inflicted a personal, unethical, and unjustified decision to remove Mr. Washington as band director for the upcoming school year without the consult or consideration of Westbury band students or their parents. What district court principals uphold these leadership methods that would jeopardize the student's social and emotional state and disregard the student and parents' educational input for the sake of gaining an extra dollar? Is it to improve human capital, improve public support and confidence in schools, or maybe it aligns with creating a positive district culture? I want clarification, as the principal has disregarded my parents' request for a formal meeting and banned students and the parents. Thus, I'm asking that there be an investigation regarding the decision the principal has made to significantly change my child's educational program without the incorporation of FACE. That'll be the Family and Community Engagement Department, and that Mr. Washington be reinstated as band director for the 23-24 school year.
Jerry Monroe died on April 30th. He made a positive difference in kids' lives and mine. I hope he made one in yours. Like former HISD board president Juliet Stepetch, who introduced me to the late principal of Fur High, Dr. Bertie Simmons, Jerry was able to secure a private meeting for me with Yates High School principal Kenneth Davis. As a result, I had the pleasure of working with students in those schools to create bylaws for their student governments. Those bylaws are in my HISD vendor-approved book, Robert's Rules for Kids and Big Kids. In 2021, Superintendent House participated in a panel that addressed disrupting the school-to-prison pipeline. I merged that panel's thoughts with mine. There are positive responses from the highest-ranking officials in your counseling and police departments, but I have received no institutionalized traction from any schools. Too often we hear about gun violence. It comes mostly from former students. What I propose would make a difference. Jerry and Juliet had faith in me. How about you?
Madam President, motion to extend. He wanted to speak about Westbury. Motion to extend.
Was Ms. White. When I suggested a campus-wide student government that would get this kind of a turnout because of the organization of the students, Ms. Nixon rebuffed the idea completely. when I met about a month ago with people in the wraparound services program and said, you need to reach out to the community. Our property values go down because the school is not well respected in the community. And I followed it up with a letter to the wraparound services people. I got no response. That's the problem we have at Westbury. Getting rid of this gentleman is
Calandra Boson, followed by Veronica Hunter Johnson.
Of a student at Westbury High School, I'm asking you to please reinstate Mr. Washington as the director of Westbury High School Band for 2023 and 24 school year. Mr. Washington has directed this band for over 16 years, converting it into one of the most recognized and the most distinguished programs that Westbury has to offer. He encourages our children to present themselves with integrity and respect. He challenges them to maintain above average grades, to maintain success, and host collegiate band auditions at the school. In closing, our children deserve the best experiences at school. Please don't allow them to be stripped away of yet another seasoned, qualified, and effective teacher. I ask you to reinstate Mr. Washington as director for 23-24, and for the sake of our children's emotional health, I thank you.
Veronica Hunter Johnson, followed by Juan Romero and Ryan Penner.
Okay, I'm here to address two items. First off is reinstating Mr. Washington band way back in the 2nd and 3rd grade. So those are the type of inputs and the type of effects that he have on the community. And that what, from Lovett to Maryland to Westbury, my son has enjoyed the band, and we want to keep our band director. Also, I want to address the principal, Ms. Nixon, and her policies of miscommunication and calling students in the office to speak to them about band incomes and the money in the school and not speaking to the parents. We've been waiting on a meeting with her since May 3rd, emailing everyone and still having gotten a date. We deserve to have communication. We want to be a part of our students' learning. I'm in a PTO, I'm in SDMC, but we can't get a meeting with her. Thank you.
Juan Romero, followed by Ryan Penner and Ana Otero. Juan Romero, Ryan Penner, Ana Otero, Ana Otero. Okay, Ana Otero, followed by Michael Johnson Sr. Traducción. Sí. Do you know where the translation services are? There's nobody back there. Okay. El doctor Cruz le va a traducir aquí. Gracias.
Program at the school.
Y ahorita que nosotros recibimos la noticia
And now that we received the news
de nuestro director de banda,
that the band director,
nos sentimos muy tristes.
we felt very sad.
Y creo que todas las personas que estamos acá estamos tristes
And I think that all the people that are here are feeling
porque
the same
recibimos
sadness
esta noticia
because we received this news
que van a quitar al director de banda
that they're going to remove the band director
cuando él ha hecho un buen trabajo por toda la escuela y por todos los alumnos.
when he's done a great job for the entire school and for all the students.
Todos los padres necesitamos y les pedimos de favor a toda la junta directiva que está acá
All of the parents need and ask that all of the board of directors who are here,
que por favor
that you please
piensen
think about
piensen bien en todo el trabajo que el maestro ha hecho por la escuela y por los alumnos.
That you think well about all of the work that the individual, the employee has done for the school and for the students.
Porque ellos se han enfocado mucho en la escuela y en mantener en alto la escuela High School Westbury.
Because they have focused on the school and maintaining it at a high standard. Westbury
Gracias.
School. Thank you. Gracias.
Michael Johnson Sr., followed by Janita Washington.
Good evening. Michael Johnson Sr., father of Michael Johnson Jr. He's a junior in the band at Westbury High School. Amazed about how everybody in the community always say they want a leader, someone that kids can look out to and help the community. And you have a gentleman like Mr. Washington. I have the ability, I have a career that I'm able to drop my son off every morning and pick him up every evening, and Mr. Washington is there. And when you have a dedicated employee like that, it's a shame that you would just get rid of them or just disregard it. And then community and the students and the parents. That's it for me. Thank you.
Janita Washington, followed by Susana Guzman and Sam Smith.
Good evening. I'm Shanita. I am the parent of a band student at Westbury High School. He's going into his senior year. I would like to request the reinstatement of Reginald Washington, the band director. Mr. Washington has positively influenced every student he has come across in the past 17 years. He encourages the students to believe in themselves and to use their musical gifts to be successful in life. He is a mentor to the students. He teaches them that hard work pays off. This makes them strive to be the best by maintaining good grades and having self-discipline. The program that he created has allowed so many to receive scholarships. Why would anyone want to change that? Please think of the students and the negative impact that this will have on them mentally and emotionally. My son was not in a good space during COVID. When he came to Westbury, he was not physically fit. And this band changed him. When I tell you, he's right there. He has lost half, he is so physically fit now. I am proud, very proud, and I'm so thankful, Mr. Washington. I am so thankful. Thank you.
Susana Guzman.
Hi, I'm Susana Guzman, parent of a freshman at Westbury High School. Our Westbury band director, Mr. Washington, has been in my life. He's made sure everyone is doing the right thing and keeping up with their grades. He feels he's taught him to be well-disciplined.
Smith. Sam Smith. Okay. Next, we will hear from registered speakers who signed up to speak virtually via Zoom. Zoom speakers, please remember that we must see you live with your camera on as you speak. Ms. Conroy, please identify and admit our speakers.
Jeffrey Hunter, please turn on your camera. You may begin speaking. Jeffrey Hunter, you need to turn your camera on, please, and begin speaking.
Stop, Mama.
Jeffrey Hunter, you must turn your camera on, please, and begin speaking.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, so my name is Jeff Hunter. Thank you for giving me a minute to talk. Two things I know. Under this band director, this band program is this across the southern states. Another thing I know is transparency will help build trust, will help build advocacy for all stakeholders. And I am disappointed in this case. It seems to be a lack of transparency. It seems to be things are being moved in a personally motivated way. And the fact that the principal...
That concludes our hearing of the community.
Madam President, I have a point of order.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to
thank all of these young folk and adults for coming out here tonight. And the point of order is that as a board member, I referred it to the administration for review. And I would like to ask Superintendent House, have you begun to look into the situation yet, Westbury?
It's a personnel matter, and unfortunately, it can't be talked about.
I just want y'all to know I referred it to him. Thank you so much. Thank y'all for coming out.
We will now go back to items considered and held for abstention and/or discussion. Our next item being held from the consent agenda is item 4, approval of the May budget amendment, and this was being held at the request of Trustee Cruz. Trustee Cruz is not here. Is she on Zoom, Ms. Conroy?
Admitting her now. Hold on,
Okay.
please. Trustee Cruz, you're in the room. We need to see you on camera, please.
So, we do have a missing phone from one of the trustees, so while we're waiting on Trustee Cruz, does anybody find a phone? Thank you. Okay. So Trustee Cruz, can you hear us?
Thank you. So I'm very concerned that as of March 31st, 2023, we had only spent 64% of function 11, which is instruction. And a year ago at the same time, we had spent 61% of function 11. Sorry, it was 64 earlier. What this tells me is that principals and departments are not spending the money allocated for instruction for a particular year. Decentralization does not equate to lack of support, guardrails, or controls, especially if our purpose of a school district is to make sure that our students are learning. If we continue to intentionally inflate our rainy day fund balance, we are taking money that should be spent on educating children, and we are merely saving for some rainy day that will only be a Band-Aid on any given year. It does not address the deficit, and it continues to rob our children of the education they deserve. Principals and departments need support and accountability with spending their resources to be able to do right by our kids and focus on their outcomes. Thank you.
Trustee Allen?
Thank you. Mr. Superintendent, last Thursday, I think I asked about the one-time funds that we have for this year. And Trustee Dygard had some knowledge of those funds. And my question is, well, let me give you the information before that. DeBakey received $272,000 in extra funds. HSPVA received $214,000 in extra funds. T.H. Rogers, for the last 3 years, has received $200,000 in extra funds. Carnegie Vanguard, $127,000 in extra funds. Westbury, $117,000 in extra funds. Hamilton Middle School, $100,000 in extra magnet money. Oak Forest, $94,000 in extra magnet money. And Jones, $90,000 in extra magnet money. Those monies are those students that were supposed to be one-time funds and that were shared between the schools when they needed to do something extra. As I said before, I got $20,000 one time, and we took that $20,000 and repaired our email me or text me or anything. So were you able to address the magnet funds that we have? If not, then I would like to ask that the new superintendent and board of managers include this reactivation of the one-time funds. So were you able to talk to the magnet people
We did take a look at it and have conversations with the magnet people, and due to the late nature of the request, what this would have meant is several staffing changes, so we didn't think it was in the best nature of these schools and the impact that would have on these schools at this late nature.
So they've been keeping almost a couple $1 million between the 5 schools that the rest of the district is supposed to share. So they should be able to keep it next year because it's a late date? they knew it was a one-time fund, and they knew we were supposed to have it one time.
And I had this conversation specifically with my chief financial officer in reference to it being categorized as one-time funds. And Glenn, I don't remember how many
I think the
years.
definition changed after.
Ma'am?
I think the definition changed with after the last superintendent. When you came in, the definition kind of changed. And it was stuck at the schools.
Okay. But as I indicated, due to the late nature, we just didn't feel it was healthy to go in and change. It would mean individuals that wouldn't be allocated to those schools. Those individuals have already gone through what it was to have those commitments to be at those schools. So I'm open, and we were looking at that for the previous year, so we're open. So I don't know the exact nature of every dollar, but I do know that there are staffing.
Money, and it's not being shared equitably. That's something that we've been trying to do ever since, I think the last four of us that came on, the four people that came, our main word was equitable. And so now, all of a sudden, we can see after we've been here a while and learned the ropes that things are not equitable and certain schools get to keep millions.
That's been a major part of what we've done, Dr. Allen, and what we've tried to support in terms of equity throughout. It's a part of why we moved forward with RISE and the supports that we've put throughout the district. This particular instance in reference to Magnet and the long history, given that it's, it's late nature, we chose not to move forward with the recommendation. So
Okay.
I hear where you're coming from and respect for where you're coming from. But as you indicated, this will be an item that we won't be making any recommendations for this coming school year, but we'll make sure that the concern is passed on to the next superintendent and the board of managers as they take a close look at moving forward with budgets in previous years.
Okay, and basically that was my
future years.
point when I told you I was not being politically correct today. I just wanted to make sure all the money is out there. Every time you hear me open up my mouth, it's about some money that's been hidden for a while. So I think
I can tell you,
you didn't
I'm not
know
in the
it.
business of
It's not your fault. You came in with everybody to be equitable. And when you did that, you were browbeaten down so that things would stay the status quo, so that all the schools that had continued to have, and those that had not continue to not get. That wasn't your fault. You tried, and then you were browbeaten down. Which is probably the reason why we're getting a board of managers, because of those trustees that browbeat and do the things that they do and that they're still trying to do. And then, okay, thank you.
Trustee Guidry?
I don't want, to talk down to anyone, but it was a certain amount of money that these schools was only supposed to receive one time. Thankfully, Westbury, you were included. Okay? But the problem is they've been receiving it for 3 years now. And they will continue to receive it even after we're gone, even though we brought it to the attention of the administration. It concerns me because I love Westbury, but I also love Worthy. I also love Madison. I also love South Early. All of those schools are in our area, District 9, and then there are so many other schools who don't have. And so our concern is that this money needs to be put back into the coffer so that it can be divided equitably. Thank you.
Trustee Santos?
Thank you, President Hernandez and Superintendent House. I do want to echo Trustee Allen, Trustee Guidry's point. Segregation, that's inequity in its most visible form. Our community schools have been stripped of not just their talent, bussed out of our communities, but also no resources or no adequate resources have been given to our community. I refuse to vote on a budget amendment that does not address these issues. We have institutional knowledge. Students, former teachers, former principals on this dais that have tried to figure this out. We've tried to give power to the powerless, and it has failed time and time again. With this institutional knowledge, we have not been able to succeed. So a board of managers that doesn't have the community behind them, a board of managers that does not have the trust.
My colleagues, that there is some inherent inequities that we see from that study, and that they do need to be remedied. We're being told that it's too late at this point in time, but definitely for anyone coming in, it's definitely a concern that there are some schools who are struggling to find TAs for pre-K teachers, and there's other schools receiving hundreds of thousands of dollars. Trustee Guidry?
Thank you. So please help me understand something, because I went to law school, I didn't go to medical school, and this is probably why. On slide 18, we're looking at an actual in March of 2022, a budget, the amount we budgeted, and the amount we budgeted was $2,313,604. But the actual that was spent, unless I'm wrong, is $1,274,410. We came in less. Where is the rest of that money? Because according to the actual of revenue up here, it's 1 billion, I'm sorry, my eyes are giving you out. 820, 355, 916. So there was some money left over that I'm not seeing, and I know, Glenn, I could be reading, I'm sorry, I know Superintendent House, I could be reading it wrong, but can someone explain that to me? Because not only is it in 2022, but it's in 2023 as well. We came under our budgeted amount, and we came under the amount of the revenue.
I mean, I'm gonna talk about 22. We, at that time, collected $1.8 billion. But as of that time, we only spent 1.2, right? But there's some big dollars in here that we haven't spent yet in 22 in March. For example, recapture of 231 million still hadn't been paid.
Oh, well, where is that? See, okay, you can stop right there. I didn't know, because I'm thinking
Right.
we're at the end of the year in March. And, yeah, we're at the end of the year, pretty much, and those items are not there. So I think that's what threw me off.
Well, and you still have April, May, June for salaries to be paid out in the district as well.
Yeah, but still,
Yeah,
okay,
there are big expenditures that haven't come out yet.
okay, thank you.
Trustee Allen?
While we are on the budget for this particular year, I also wanted to make sure that I addressed, and the new Board of Managers and the new superintendent saw our issues that we had previously in the Career and Technology Department. That money that was set up, especially with the last vote that we had for Lamar to get a veterinary clinic, and they were upset because they had a dog washing clinic and it didn't work. And then they turned it into a cafeteria and that didn't work. Then they needed some more money. They wanted some more money for veterinary clinic. And we voted that down. Well, we didn't vote it down, it didn't pass, put it like that. There are schools with CTE programs, like Bel Air has 10, Lamar has 14, and then there are other schools that have to get on the bus, waste their valuable time, money. They didn't show. Can y'all move that to 2 minutes? So,
Madam President, have we suspended our one round?
And it was for the dog washing project. As a matter of fact, they came up, look at here, you signed it. Your name is right here. I know what I signed. I read. I'm one of the few that read. I read everything. It was not the contract. I knew what the contract looked like for that veterinary clinic, and it was not that contract that they showed me. So I just want to make sure the new superintendent and the Board of Managers comes in and looks at that Career and Technology Department. Thank you. Follow the money.
Let me look back over my shoulder for our attorney, because I know she's gonna get me. But I'm gonna ask about the budget. How much money do we owe still yet, if we owe anything, on the Bel Air $4.2 million baseball, softball field? We paid it off? It's paid in full? I know it's
As
the
far as-
previous board that okayed that, but I just wanted to ask, well, since we talking about budget,
Yeah, so if I remember, that was in the bond program.
I know, but I just wondered what remained of that, even though it was that 2012 bond, then we still had to pay the remainder of it, I guess about last year sometimes. So, one of the things too, I want to mention, and I will say this
Trustees, you
openly.
do need to tie, I know you're working really hard, but you need to tie it to one of the line items that is in the budget amendment on this particular agenda item. I don't think bond programs are a part of that, but if you've got a question about a particular line item at the function level that's part of the budget amendment, then that would be germane to this topic.
Yes, ma'am, make it germane. Look on budget page 18. I was bringing it around. I knew it was coming back around. Yeah, I knew I was going to get a whipping. But anyway, initially, and Superintendent House, I will say this. And in all honesty, I know we're having a little fun, but serious all at the same time. You came to us with a 5-year plan twice. And with that 5-year plan, for those of you that followed it, I know Larry probably did because he knows more about these bonds than I do. It gave the campuses, they were retaining full autonomy to do what they wanted to do with that money. Whereas the first plan, Hattie Mae White would have been more in charge of it, and then you all could have tailored the amount of monies that would have been spent in the various campuses. So that was an opportunity. Let me bring it back to budget page 18. So as we're talking about the amount of money, I think Trustee
You
Guidry
lost
was
one of your
talking about.
members.
Huh?
You lost one of your trustees.
Trustee Guidry, we always lose that trustee. But Trustee Guidry was talking about the bottom line, Glenn, that she was speaking of as far as, what line was that? What line item? It was page 18. What line item was that? The bottom line that we were talking about, the savings, the total amount. I don't have it pulled up. But that item that you mentioned, Glenn, is that a carryover from last year? Or is there any of that money a carryover from last year? Or is that all part of that dollars from the 2022-23 budget?
So I'm not sure I'm following what I was responding to Trustee Guidry.
Okay,
on
page 18.
Right.
Page 18, and we're on, as of March 31st, 2023, the surplus, the deficit is what I was referencing. The deficit amount, how much of that we're spending for 2023?
It's in both the 2.3 million in 2022 and in 2023.
The next budget workshop.
We would be here?
Yes. It's Thursday. It's in 1 week. Okay, don't see anybody else in the queue. Please vote. How does it affect what? I don't know, I'm abstaining. That's not. We need one more trustee to vote.
That would be me.
Voting is closing. Trustee Cruz voted no. Motion fails. 2 in favor, 6 opposed, 1 abstention. Our next item held for the consent agenda is item 5. Approval of recommended curriculum materials for human sexuality instruction and instruction on the prevention of child abuse, family violence, dating violence, and sex trafficking. This item was held for discussion by Trustee Baker. May I have a motion? Do I have a Trustee Wade? And a second by Trustee Bluford Daniels. Is there any discussion? Kathy, Trustee Bluford Daniels. Oh, wait, are you in the queue? No. Trustee Baker.
Yes, thank you so much, Madam President. I I did get the answers back on the Q&A, but I'm not satisfied with that, namely because I'm not clear on the content of the human sexuality instructions and how it will be taught to K through, especially fifth grade students at the moment.
Sure.
I spoke with the SHAC committee that I referred to the first time around, and the person said that they did not approve that, and they were unaware of it.
So, I mean, we have the minutes from the meetings and the attendance. We can.
Okay,
definitely
all right. Well,
provide
perhaps she
that
missed
to
that
you.
meeting, but how does this apply to elementary schools age students?
So it's an opt-in program, so parents have to opt their child into it. If there's no permission slip received, then the student will not participate in the instruction, and it's presented in age-appropriate ways. It's the facts of human reproduction is essentially what's taught, and at the younger grades, it's really just about them understanding their body. So it's this has been taught in schools for many years, but again, it's an opt-in program for students. So nobody is forced to do it. And in fact, like if a parent doesn't explicitly say they want their child to participate, they do not participate in the instruction.
Thank you. Well, I just, as I said last week, and I still say that today, I just cannot go with that. I say you can call me old-fashioned if you want, but I just cannot see, because I have a 7-year-old daughter, and I think some things should be left. Hey, listen, I'm talking right now. Point of order. Point of order. You messed up my minutes. I have a 7-year-old, and I believe that some things should. Thank you.
Trustee Wade?
Yes. There you go. So my question has to do with, I realize that this was brought, I see the answers to the questions submitted, but and I realize that it's gone through this process. My concern is I'm not, I know y'all say that you're going to put it on is the current curriculum that's already in play right now, is it on the portal?
I do not know. I have to verify that.
So that's my problem. I'm not completely confident that,
Let me look.
okay, please, thank you. Since I don't have portal access. My other question for you on this is that if you're going to say something like birthing persons, which I'm totally against, is there a way to state that language would be in this as a heading, to people know to be looking for it?
So that choice of language is a choice that was made by the publisher.
I get it. I get it. And I see that you have said that the CDC and the WHO have recommended it, which again.
To the publisher, not
Yeah,
to us,
well,
yeah.
anyway, I see that.
Yeah.
I guess what I want to know is what can the district do to protect children and let the parents know with the language that's going to be clearly stated at the top before they even get into all the minutia? Will you be able to somehow imply that this language is being used?
Let me verify what.
Okay,
exactly
thank you,
was-
that's all.
Yep.
Thank you.
Trustee Guidry?
Thank you. So just so I can do a recap a little bit, just for our students taught, isn't it going to be taught Superintendent House at an age-appropriate level?
Correct.
And the parents will have an opportunity to not only opt out, but they have to actually opt in to this program. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So if a parent does not agree and opt in, then the child isn't taught this, correct?
That's correct.
And so, and would you say that a teacher,
If they could,
yes,
they could, yes.
they probably could, correct?
Correct.
And explain to the child in an age-appropriate language what that means, correct?
Correct.
I passed the witness, thank you.
Trustee Baker? Oh, sorry, Trustee Santos?
No, I was first. Point of order.
You've already gone one time, so
You
we're
called
going to
my
let
name.
Trustee Santos go.
Go ahead, Santos.
Thank you, President Hernandez, Superintendent House, Trustee Baker. I'm going to say this. I believe that we, the HISD board, are on display of an example of how people shouldn't be treated. Our district is made up of almost 90% people of color, almost 90% of students that live in poverty. 90% of our community is marginalized and is being disenfranchised. We are being made to feel very small by one man that is not a person of color and certainly doesn't come from poverty. We cannot begin to understand what we can never know. The undertones of the dialogue suggest that parents and students cannot think for themselves. I know that our communities can think for themselves. Just because I'm a woman, just because I'm a woman of color, doesn't mean that I can't think for myself. And for the record, I want to go ahead and state that I support our trans brothers and sisters, including those who give birth, period. Thank you.
Trustee Baker.
Just want to add to, how many minutes have left? Over this, the clock rolling? Second round. Oh, second round. Just want to add that when I stated some comments on this last week, and I got the question Q&A, my concern here, and you know, I'm an older parent, and thank God I have my first child, and you know, there's just some things, and I also asked, what happens when a student has no parent to opt them out? And I'm told that they will be sent, if a student has no parent to opt them in out, and also if a student has a parent and opts them out, say like a class of 35 and that one student opts out, won't they be ostracized like a 7 or 8 year old for not being able to take this human sexuality instruction portion of the class?
The idea is not to ostracize any student that has a guardian or a parent that opts out. The idea is to provide them with an alternative opportunity to not participate in the said curriculum. They'll have alternative opportunities to learn around something completely different, given that we provided a choice to opt in. So it's completely focused around parent choice and providing an alternative outside of what it is that parent doesn't want to see for their child.
Well, let me just say this in motion, like a point of order, that the people of District 6 are vehemently against this curriculum. And so those are the ones who elected me. We're non-individual elected board owners. And so I will not support this curriculum, period.
Trustee Dygard.
Microphone doesn't work. Thank you to the administration. I know this is a complex issue, and I want to thank Trustee Wade for raising concerns from the community, because I think we need to be making sure that we are inclusive of all views. But I also am grateful on behalf of the families who have trans students to make sure that we are being inclusive of all kids. Thank you.
One follow-up in reference to a question that Trustee Wade had. Dr. Burt?
So Trustee Wade, to answer your question, once it's loaded onto the portal, it'll be available at all times. For this current year, it was available at a doc.
Seeing nobody else in the queue, please vote. And for the record, Trustee Cruz is in favor. We are missing one trustee. All right, voting is closing. Motion passes, 7 in favor, 2 opposed, 0 abstentions. Our last item held from the consent agenda is item 6, approval of proposed revisions to board policy AE local educational philosophy regarding goal progress measures 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3, first reading. Trustee Cruz requested that this item be pulled for discussion. May I have a motion? Do I have a second? A motion by Trustee Dygard and a second by Trustee Wade. Are there any comments or questions from my colleagues? I see trustee Dygard in the queue, and then I will put trustee Cruz in right after. Trustee Dygard?
Actually, since trustee Cruz pulled this, well, my question is, do we need to vote on this tonight, or can this wait for the Board of Managers? This is just changing how they're calculating these progress measures.
I'm okay with pulling it.
We done on this tonight?
There's no presentation, I'm being told.
Oh, when I asked last week, that's what I was told. That's why I didn't ask questions last week.
Last week.
At agenda review. I
Dr.
said,
Burt,
is there gonna be a-
We do have a slide deck that
Oh, you
has
do?
the information to reference, yeah. Dr. Matney will,
A slide deck.
there's a
There
slide
is a presentation, trustee Cruz.
Well, then I'm definitely gonna ask that it's postponed. We just getting a slide today.
well, you need to make the motion then.
So, trustee Cruz, there is a slide deck, but I know that there's a motion on, or there is a likely motion on the table. Trustee Dygard,
I move that we postpone this to the June board meeting.
I have a motion by trustee Dygard. Do I have a second? I have a second by trustee Guidry.
I was in the queue to speak. Could that motion wait? I'll support it, just let me speak.
I'm sorry, trustee Santos, there's already a motion on the table. Can you make it germane to the motion to postpone, whatever your comment was?
Okay. So is there any discussion? Trustee Santos.
Thank you, President Hernandez. So considering this in the postponement of this item, just want to remind the administration that there are other ways to gauge student learning: fine arts, writing portfolios, smaller class sizes, ceasing the attack on instructional time. Teachers are not allowed to teach anymore because all they do is have DLAs and district assessments and practice for STAR and a lot of other baloney. So I would recommend that in your goal, AE local, our educational philosophy is that we actually educate our children and not just test.
June board meeting. Okay, voting is closing. Motion passes, 8 in favor, 1 opposed, 0 abstentions. We are now ready to consider the remainder of today's agenda. Do I have a motion to accept the balance of today's agenda by consensus? Is there a second?
Hold on, and this is the regular, not
Yes, this is the regular agenda, not closed session. We have a motion by trustee Santos and a second by trustee Dygard. Are there any comments or questions from my colleagues? Please vote. Voting is closing. Motion passed, 9 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions. We are now ready to consider items discussed in executive session. Are there any motions?
I move the board approve the amendment to HISD contract with Region 4 for provision of Lone Star governance on the terms discussed in closed session effective May 12th, 2023.
Is there a second? We have a motion by trustee Santos and a second by trustee Baker. Please vote. Any other motions?
I move that the board approve the amendment to the settlement agreement in the matter of Vincent R. BNF, Daniel and Kristen R.V., Houston ISD, docket number 188 SE 0220, on the terms discussed in closed session effective May 12th, 2023.
Is there a second? We have a motion by trustee Santos and a second by trustee Guidry. Please vote. We are waiting for one trustee to vote. We are good to go. Voting is closing. Motion passes, 9 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions.
I move that the board approve a finding of no good cause for educators to resign or abandon employment contracts without district consent under sections 21.105C, 21.160C, or 21.210C of the Texas Education Code as discussed in closed session, and authorize the superintendent or his designee to submit a written complaint to SBEC SBEC to impose sanctions as discussed in closed session effective May 12th, 2023.
I have a motion by trustee Santos. Do I have a second? Please vote.
I have a question of clarity for legal. Does this include the Westbury Band Director position?
You are not voting on that at all tonight.
Okay,
So
thank you.
none of your motions refer to that.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Please vote. Voting is closing. Motion passes, 8 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 abstention. Motion by trustee Santos. Do I have a second? Oh, I have a second by trustee Dygard. Please vote. Voting is closing. Motion failed. 4 in favor, 4 opposed, 1 abstention.
I move that the board approve closed session personnel agenda item 7 as discussed in closed session effective May 12th, 2023.
I have a motion by trustee Santos. Do I have a second? I have a second by trustee Baker. Please vote. We have 2 more board members that need to vote. Voting is closing. Motion fails, 4 in favor, 4 opposed, 1 abstention.
It's 3 in favor. Oh, no. Well, okay. I move that the board approve the balance of the closed session personnel agenda, including specifically that the board approve proposed terminations of continuing term and probationary contracts, approve an end-of-term terminations of probationary contracts, that the board approve proposed non-renewals of term contracts, that the board approve issuance of 4th-year probationary contracts, and that the board authorize the superintendent or his designee to provide notice of same, that the board approve separation and release agreements, that the board approve withdrawals of contract recommendations, and that the board approve issuance of final orders on contract terminations and non-renewals as discussed in closed session effective May 12th, 2023.
Lisa. Of trustee Guidry in the queue.
And I just want to say for the benefit of our audience that you all know the band director, the Westbury band director did not come before us to vote on. He is not included in this because you read it and you see terminations, suspensions, and all of that. And I want you all to know that this one is not before us tonight. Okay?
But you showing up was awesome.
Yes.
Please vote. We are waiting on one trustee to vote. Voting is now closing. Motion passes 8 in favor, 1 opposed, 0 abstentions. Is that all of our motions from closed session? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular monthly board meeting held on April 13th, 2023? We have a motion by trustee Santos. Is there a second? Oh, we have a motion by trustee Guidry and a second by trustee Wade. Is there any discussion? Please vote. We are missing 2 trustees, 1 trustee. Voting is now closing. Motion passes 9 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions. Mr. Superintendent, do you have any reports?
Madam President, I do not, but I do have a few comments that I'll make. As this, of course, it's been interesting over the course of the past 22 months. It's been a journey, like quite frankly no other, filled with challenges, as you all see in the public on a daily basis, triumphs and lessons learned. I really have had the honor to witness firsthand the incredible work being done in our classrooms with our educators and those that work with our students on a daily basis. The passion and dedication of our teachers, quite frankly, and staff and students has really been inspiring to what I do and have the opportunity to do on a daily basis. As I prepare to leave this position, I want to thank the HISD community for your support, tireless dedication to our kiddos. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve as your superintendent, and I'm proud of all that we have accomplished together. We have, as I reflect back, over 50 schools that were categorized D or F when I arrived, and 40 of those schools are no longer D or F schools, so there has been progress in the right direction. A final note for the graduating class of 2023, you are the future of this city, this country, this state, and I'm really, really proud of all that you guys continue to do to make a difference in this city, state, and country. Keep striving for XR and know that you have the whole community behind you, cheering you on every step of the way. Thank you.
We are now ready to hear reports and comments from board members. Please limit your time to 1 minute per trustee.
1 minute. No, this is a closing, our last statement.
This is in the script, okay? I guess we will not. We will start. Is there anyone who would volunteer to?
Looking forward to graduations. It's always such an exciting time, and I think back on all of my years of working with students and just such a huge milestone. I had the honor of attending the G Unity Hustle Tank earlier. Was it just yesterday? Just so impressed. Congratulations to the winners, and really just a congratulations to all of the participants. The sky is really the limit for our students, and I just think about when they're given opportunities, they will definitely thrive. It's truly been an honor to serve as a trustee. I'll still be here. I'm not going away. I will be watching, asking for transparency, and sharing information with the public. I really do want to thank my colleagues. Sorry, I knew I was going to cry.
No tears in softball.
This board showed up. We put in the time. We did the work, even though we disagreed a lot of the time. Thank you to board services. They work tirelessly behind the scenes. Thank you to all of the employees of HISD that show up each and every single day for our students. And really thank you to our teachers, because I know your work is never easy. And most importantly, thank you to our students. May all of those in leadership make sure that each of you is afforded every opportunity to fulfill your dreams. Thank you.
I'll go next. I at least had to let one lady go first because my mother always taught me to be a gentleman. Mom is still alive. She's in Georgia. She's to be 84 next month. But I just have a heart of thanks tonight. I've been elected for 17 months now. And I finally got used to being a trustee, to learning the ropes, so to speak. And so I have a heart of service. And it's not all about me, it's about the kids, their education. I say that I have 197,000 children. And so I'm grateful for what I also want to spend this night to give my condolences to the family of Mr. Gary Monroe. It was him who pushed me for 7 months to run for school board. Had it not been for Gary Monroe, I would not be on the school board. And so I would like to salute 5 Star tonight in his absence. Many of us say this, that we always didn't agree on everything. But that gentleman, I didn't know him before I ran, sought me out and pushed me for 7 months until I signed up 2 days before the final day, ran my race and won. And so God has a way of using people. And now his service is over, and I want to believe that he's watching us from upstairs. To all of you who came tonight, I truly, truly thank you for staying to the end. I can't recall a meeting where I've seen so many young folks stay to the end. I want to encourage you to keep pursuing higher heights. You are our leaders. You will take over when we're all gone. And so continue to press on toward a higher mark and higher calling. And as a pastor, I'll say that through Jesus Christ. And happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers and those expecting mothers. Happy Mother's Day to all of you. And I wish many blessings upon your life. And may the Lord bless all of you, all the colleagues I've been serving with. I know as the only guy on the board, you've had to put up with me, your little brother, your big brother. But hey, it is what it is. But I love all of y'all like sisters, and Mr. House like brother, and all of the staff, senior staff, all the chiefs, all of y'all along the wall, all the coach, all of y'all. I just love everybody. Thank y'all for being one big family. And like Trustee Cruz said, I'm not going anywhere. We will be supporting the board of managers. And, and since I have a heart of service, I might be pursuing other things, but I will always be there because I've been serving the public for nearly 40 years. So God bless you and good night.
Folks that come out and are here and are dedicated. It is amazing to watch you all and witness and hear from you. So thank you. And I want to thank all the staff. I want to thank board services. I mean, if you only knew what board services does for us. Thank you for the time that y'all stay, the time that you answer our emails. I just can't say enough. I want to also highlight the Spring Visual Arts Showcase. It's out in the lobby. If you had a minute to check it out, it's worth seeing. That's students from all over the district to witness. It's also Teacher Appreciation Week, and as Kendall Baker said, it's Mother's Day weekend to come. I want to thank and congratulate all the graduates that will be going across the stage in a couple of weeks to celebrate that momentous day. How important that is. I also want to thank security. I want to thank tech service for all the help they give us, food services for the food they provide, and all the rest of the staff that make this ship run. I want to thank you, Superintendent House, for putting up with us and for us putting up with you. So good, it works both ways. I want to thank Wes Berry community. Wow, very impressed. So thank you all for coming out. And it's been such an honor and a privilege to be able to serve you over the past year and a half. And I continue to press in. And I just thank you and have a blessed and wonderful night.
Trustee Guidry?
First of all, I'd like to give a world of appreciation to all of the principals, teachers, cafeteria workers, janitorial service. I know that it's another name now, but I'm old school. It's janitorial service. Bus drivers, really appreciate you all. Whether you hear it from us or hear it us telling you individually, I want to say it. Let me just say, I'm not saying goodbye. I was elected to serve until 2025, and I plan to do just that. Prior to being appointed and then elected to the board, I was fighting in a different arena, addressing the injustices of the CPS system. But I'm here now, and I'm here to stay. We will continue to advocate for the injustices on our campuses. For instance, there are campuses that continue to receive a one-time fund year after year after year, and we have campuses who are having their CTE funding reduced because there's no funding, allegedly. I ran for the sole purpose, and that was to help write policy to achieve better student outcomes. I will stay here to make sure whoever sit at this seat will be looking out for all of the students and not just some. You all, I'm so you've had an opportunity to see how this thing works. You now know what happens at a board meeting. You've heard about them and the Board of Education. Well, now you know how it works. You too can sit in this seat. Give back and give back. We have learned that it is a possibility that we will no longer have an HISD email. So because you all elected me, take out your pens, your pencils, and your phones, because I'm going to give you an email where you all can contact me, your elected official. My email address will be hisdmyrna, MYRNA, @gmail.com. If you need your elected official, contact me, reach out to me, and I will stand with you on your issues before this board, the new Board of Managers. Thank you all so much for coming out. Congratulations, Madison, on being one of the G Unity winners. Congratulations to all of our graduates, and I wish all of you all the most success. And remember, I always say, excellence resides in District 9. You're a part of District 9. Thank you.
We will be going to the graduations up until June 4th. Any other takers for before being voluntold? Trustee Allen.
Today, come on. I want to start with accolades for our superintendent, Mr. Millard House. You came to Texas with the best of intentions, but Texas politics is a whole different ballgame. But please know that I appreciate you. We have one more meeting, and I know we have the hearings and the budget workshops, but this is my last time to make be able to make comments, take over. There is no way that one man should be able to overturn the votes of 1 million people. On a positive note, congratulations to the class of '23.
Trustee Bluefer Daniels?
Okay, I tried to initiate a joke over here for Cruz to keep her from crying, so I ain't gonna cry. But I will say this, I am not always the most poised or the most articulate, but I am you. I am those students at Cashmere, at Wheatley, at Yates, at North Forest. I am all of those students. And I say that because I don't have the education background. I see one of my cohorts out here. I'm a retired postal manager, almost 30 years. And so, though I have another job now, a secondary job, I did my time. So if nothing else, that tells you that I am a committed individual to spend 30 years on a job, especially that job. But, my daughter, my grandkids, all of my family for putting up for the time that we have taken up here and spent a lot of time. You all just see us basically on Thursdays, but we are here. We have to study and prepare to come up here and be able to talk about the various things on this dais, whatever we get for the agenda. Now, everybody don't study, but some of us we study. We go. Those kids have heard so much negativity, how poor they are. Their zip codes means that they can't learn. But this one right here, if you see Kathy and a bear in a fight, help the damn bear. Because I'm going to fight. And I'm going to fight, because I am that kid at Wheatley, at Waltrip, at Yates, at Worthing, etc. I'm that kid. I'm going to always try to do what's best for our children. We spend a lot of time here. I missed my granddaughter's dance recital in Klein last week because I was preparing for this. Forgot. My daughter said, "Mom, you can't save everybody." I met Larry McKenty literally in 2015 when we were out there on that side of the dais, protesting out 288, saved no more bloodshed, so various many things. I've been on the ground, which is why I was elected to this position, because the people in my district know, again, help the bear, because Kathy's going to fight. I'm going to fight for what's right. You don't have to worry about it. Integrity. Like I said, I did 30 years. I get a check every month, thank God, retirement check. So I am not going to risk that by a few $100s. I'm going to be there. My reputation speaks for itself. And at almost 66 years old next month, I am not going to destroy my reputation. I am not. I've worked too hard for it. Thank you for Teachers Appreciation. I love you all. I mean, we work hard for you all as well. We don't always agree, Jackie, Daniel. But one thing about it is they're in the work. They do the work. Mr. Washington, I watched you, and it took everything in you to keep from crying, because those kids gave you your flowers today in their life. We don't have enough of that. And I hope that, I'm sure Larry and them, somebody recorded, and you could understand apparently what you mean to these kids. If there was any question in anybody's mind before, it tells you what you mean to these kids. So I applaud you all for coming out here. I think as somebody said, and standing up for what's right. Ruth Kravitz, I see you back there, always on the forefront, always in the fight. And we appreciate y'all. We appreciate Ms. McKenzie. Thank you for loaning us your husband, because I've been around him for a long time. It's a good thing I'm old, though. But anyway, thank you. Music is a bridge. It's a bridge for learning. Some of these schools, and I've talked about it many times, have less than 20 kids in their band. That used to be a Marching 100, Yates, Booker T. Washington, Forest Brook, North Forest, less than 20 kids. And you got all these kids out here supporting you. Apparently, you're pouring something into them. The most important thing I want to say is thank you for allowing not just my D2 Diamonds, but all of you. And I raised so much cane because those kids in D2 have been so overlooked. This superintendent or any other superintendent in the future brings to us that's going to, I say, hats off to Jerry, because we were on the battlefield for a lot of things. We don't always agree, but hats off to him because he came and stood here and fought. Whether I agree with him or not, he called me sometimes afterwards and tell me, and we'd have a few choice words, Rep, but I can't say those words. But anyway, we had them. Congratulations to my grandest son, E3. I talked about the time that we're away from them. My grandest son will be graduating from Lamar University this Saturday with a degree in, numbers. I can't remember what it is. It's numbers. He's obviously smarter than his queenie, but it's something to do with numbers. Mr. House, thank you. Thank you for bringing from the best and the brightest chiefs here. My Glenn, I'm going to miss you, but I really do appreciate that. You brought some of the best, and y'all raised up off Dr. Watts. But y'all have been good. And my neighbor over here, and we appreciate you all. So some of you all haven't heard the last of us. And I'll be back on that side of the dais, Larry. I'll be right back out there with you again. You know, so I'm good with that. But thank you, too, for allowing us this opportunity to be able to extend our time and just let the public know how much we do enjoy service. Service is what I do. After retirement, service is what I do. I'm getting old and raggedy, so it's time to pass the baton. So you guys start looking at opportunities as to what you can bring forth, what you can offer. You may not want to be a board member. You might want to be we had a mayor out there at Westbury sitting up out there. We don't know. In D2, you all have every opportunity. Don't let anybody tell you you can't do it. And I fight because all of our children deserve the same opportunities, and they have the same ability to learn. Just because their zip code is 77020, 77026, or 77028 or 16 does not mean that they cannot learn. So that's why I fight like I fight. Thank you, Reb. Thank you all.
First, thank you, Superintendent House. I know you uprooted your family to come to Houston with a lot of hopes and aspirations for what you would accomplish here, and this isn't, I'm sure, how you wanted all of this to go. I know that this was challenging for you. We can be a challenging bench, but I've appreciated your service here. To my colleagues, to each and every one of you, I have appreciated the different perspectives that each of you have brought to the table for the decisions that have been before us and the challenges we've been trying to overcome for our students. Board services staff, you have been so gracious in your support of us, and there's no way that we could have done what we do without you. To every administrator and everybody who works for our district at every level that supports our students and their success, you choose to work for HISD, and I thank you for making that choice. To our school-based staff, especially our teachers, same thing. You are the closest to our kiddos. You have a choice of where you work, and I know that this is a scary time for everybody who works for the district, and thank you for continuing to stay here and try and have as seamless of a journey to create as much stability for our students during these uncertain times as we could possibly do. We all have fought differently from this table. I know that I am particularly, I think, misunderstood. I can be passionate, I can be abrupt, My mother says I have no soft edges. I came in here with, if I could have only accomplished one thing, it was to increase literacy for all kids. Very personal for me to choose to be at this table. For many reasons with my own family, but also in the advocacy of all the years that I sat where every one of you that are sitting in the advocacy of fighting for the students in our district. And I know not everybody believes or understands the position that I came from because our views may be different, but I fought to make sure that the kids who weren't getting what they needed, even though I know a lot of you won't believe that, were going to get what they needed. There were budgets that came before this board that were going to increase inequities, not decrease them in terms of the dollars invested on kids. I am going to keep fighting. It's in my blood. I'm not going anywhere either, as I don't suspect any of my colleagues will. We all care deeply about this city, the future of this city. I've always believed that despite our differences in how to get there, that we all had at the very core of our beings what we wanted for the least of our students who have been marginalized for far too long. Even though we don't know what's going to happen next, I hold out hope because I know that we are a city full of passionate people who care about our communities. And I know that those of you that are sitting in the room tonight, those of you who are watching from home, are going to continue to lift up your voice. And I have one ask. I ask that we figure out as a community a vision for what we aspire to for our children, for what 21st century learning looks like for kids. Kids learn differently. They come from different spaces. They have different aspirations. We reward the kids who are good at everything, and we label the kids who struggle. And that needs to stop. We need to see the gifts in every child. NASA is struggling to diversify their engineering force. And that all starts in elementary school, because if kids aren't getting good, strong math and science in elementary school, they can't access the advanced classes in middle school, access the advanced classes if they even have them in high school. And the true measure of equity in my mind, and I welcome anybody who after this wants to give me a different perspective than this, but when NASA isn't having trouble diversifying their engineering force because we prepared kids from the very, very start to be able to aspire and access that. And that means equitable opportunities in every classroom, every day for every child. And I want you all to fight for that. I want you to fight to make sure that our kids are actually getting the outcomes that they deserve at every level to access the next level. That's what you guys are good at doing. But if we could collectively fight for that for kids, I think we can hold whoever comes in behind us to that collective aspiration and be incredible as a city for what we do for kids. So thank you.
Trustee Santos.
Thank you, President Hernandez. I do have to say one second. Morris Isai Santos Penner, go to bed. He's at home watching me now. Okay, so on a more serious note, I know many of you are asking, where do we go from here? To answer that question, we have to answer another one first. How did we get here? Some say it was HB 1842 or SB 1882 or some other bill or court case or administrative act. Others say it was because we weren't nice enough to each other, or maybe because we didn't force our children to take enough standardized tests. No, the place we find but at the same time, some of us refuse to be content letting things happen to us. We began to make things happen for us. That's how I got here. I grew up in HISD schools, Herrera Elementary, Burbank Middle School, and my own high school, Sam Houston, was shut down by the state. In my community, many, myself included, are children of immigrants, and more are immigrants themselves. Sometimes we're scared to speak up, often for good reason. but I knew early on that I wanted to do what I could to make sure our schools were set up to serve our communities. We are HISD. I am HISD. I taught for 10 years in HISD schools. Then I became the first District 1 trustee from the east side of I-45, where more than 60% of District 1 students live. For the first time ever, those students had a leader who knew who they were, where they came from, how they lived. For the first time, they could see themselves in their leader. And now TAA has come in and stripped them of that. We are here now because those kids were never supposed to have a voice in this district. Some have mistaken our efforts to fight back and demand our voices to be heard as the very cause of our troubles. From the first day I got on this board, people would tell me, don't fight. That will just make TEA angry. I didn't listen to them, and neither should you. Because when we fight, we win. We fought TEA and we won. We refused to allow our schools to be sold to corrupt private charter organizations. We kept TEA from taking over for years. We took them to the Texas Supreme Court twice, and we would have kept winning, but the legislature changed the rules in the middle of the fight. And that reminds me, I said, when we fight, we win. But the truth is, we only win when we fight together. We lose when we become divided. We've been divided over and over from within. Some who claim to support public education, including members of this board and members of the state legislature, would have had us sell the schools serving our most vulnerable populations to the highest bidder. We have something precious we have something precious that will be taken from us unless we stand our ground. TEA, the Board of Managers, the profiteering charter movement have won many battles, but they are on our turf now. They have pushed our backs to the wall, but they haven't seen the full power of our communities manifest when united in a fight for our survival. We have no choice now but to show it to them. So tonight, I will step down from this dais, from this seat of power. But a greater power will continue to flow through me, standing shoulder to shoulder with my community. And when a member of the Board of Managers takes this seat, they will soon learn how easy it is for us to knock down a paper puppet. Students, teachers, parents, partners, we are the community. We make up the heart of our schools, and with every lesson taught, every music note played, every field coached and played on, every relationship built is the testament that our community is our schools, and we are the heartbeat. We will never stop being the community. We will never stop being HISD, and we will win. The fight is just beginning. Remember, students, my former students that are in this very room tonight, and teachers, y'all made the impossible happen. It's time to pick out our walking shoes and let's get to work. Governor Ann Richards was a teacher. I am a teacher, and we have a governor to remove and a state agency to expel. Teachers teach. Pay them like the professionals they are. Let them build relationships, reduce class size.
Su hija, sus hijos van a ser exitosos. Mis papás vinieron de México cuando ya eran adultos y yo estoy aquí ahora. Y es por la ayuda de los papás y necesitamos más representación latina y sabemos eso porque la mayoría de HISD es latino y necesitamos más representación. Muchas gracias por estar aquí porque usualmente no tenemos a nadie de habla hispana aquí. Muchas gracias. Congratulations to all of the 2023 graduates for this year. I know it's been a crazy time through your high school years. Thank you to all of the HISD students, all of the HISD parents and teachers, staff members, including Mr. House, who has been here with us. Working, it's a lot of hard work. I have been a trustee for almost 4 years, and I am so appreciative of it and grateful for the opportunity. I came here with the focus on equity, and we have been working on that as a board, but there's still a lot more steps and a lot more actions that HISD needs to take in order to get there and in order to make HISD actually equitable, but we've been going in the right direction. Tonight is the final board meeting for the elected trustees. The elected trustees have been focused on governance, although it is interesting to have and challenging to have 9 very different perspectives on the board, but that's exactly what the elected board should be. We have been laser focused on student outcomes, and we've made many positive changes to HISD schools and HISD in general. I will continue to remain involved and making sure that there's community voice heard, especially that the Board of Managers understands what the community wants. I'm hoping that the Board of Managers is not only focused on student outcomes, but is also, and I look forward to being in the seat again as soon as possible. Buenas noches. Good night, everybody. Oh, wait. For the board. Yes. For the board, we're, for the most part, postponed. The board will now adjourn to closed session, as we had discussed, or executive session under Chapter 551 of Texas Government Code Open Meetings Act, subsection 551.004, 551.071, 551.072, 551.073, 551.074, 551.076, 551.082, 551.083, 551.084, 551.089. Should board final action, vote, or decision on any matter considered in closed session be required, such final action, vote, or decision shall be taken at the open meeting covered by this notice upon the reconvening of this public meeting or a subsequent meeting upon notice thereof. The board has adjourned to closed session at 8:50 p.m. want to do this from memory. Yeah, I am signing them right now. You don't happen to have a script of. Good evening, everyone. We have currently lost our quorum, but we are going to close the meeting. La próxima reunión de la mesa directiva será el 8 de junio y la reunión de revisar la agenda será el 1 de junio. The next regular board meeting will be held on June 8th, 2023. Agenda review for that meeting will be held on June 1st, 2023. There being no further business, this meeting is officially adjourned at 9:33 p.m. Buenas noches.